This song is gonna try to make you cry. Not because of politics, not because of war, because of something much simpler than that. February 28th, the sun came up like any other day. A mother in my nap pressed her daughter's clothes before she walked away. Packed her lunch, fixed her braids, kissed her on the cheek, said learn something new today. Those were the last words she could speak. 7 in the morning, a missile carved a line across the sky. 120 children walked through those school gates, never said goodbye. The walls came down, the ceiling fell, the chalk was still on the board. They called it a precision strike, collateral ignored. 73 boys in those halls, ages 6 to 12. 47 girls who spent their mornings putting stories on the shelves. 26 teachers, all women, every single one. A bus driver, a pharmacist next door, just living under the sun. And one unborn child, 6 months along, never drew a breath. 168 lives between the morning and the death. They said we had old intelligence, we thought it was a base. The only uniforms they found in the rubble were the ones worn on small faces. Tell me how you name it when the ones who fall are small. Tell me what you call it when there's nothing left at all. I don't want the politics, I don't want the war. I just wanna know their names, I just wanna know their names. Yeah, 10 years. That's how long they built the bridge at Karaj. 10 years of engineers working through sanctions, through the dark, the tallest bridge across the Middle East, 136 meters high. They were weeks from opening it, families ready to walk across the sky. 2 missiles, April 2nd, 13 people at a picnic below. They had no idea they were part of a geopolitical show. And Trump posted the biggest bridge in Iran just fell. Much more is on the way, no mention of the people that fell. Then they hit the labs, Tofi Darrow, pastor at the core, where cancer medicine was made, where vaccines existed before. Patients who needed chemotherapy woke up to empty shelves. Children who needed insulin left to figure it themselves. 240 medical sites, 50 hospitals hit, and the world debated whether it was legal while people got sick. 77 ancient sites, 500 years of stone. Galestan Palace cracked Isfahan's Grand Mosque alone. Tell me how you name it when the ones who fall are small. Tell me what you call it when there's nothing left at all. I don't want the politics, I don't want the politics, I don't want the war, I don't want the war. I just wanna know their names, I just wanna know their names. 47 years, this nation's lived beneath the gun. 47 years of maximum pressure under the sun. You cut their banks, you blocked their medicine, you froze their sky. 90 million people woke up every morning asking why. Their grandparents survived Saddam, chemical weapons, 8 long years. Their parents survived revolution, blood and broken mirrors. This generation survived COVID without the world's vaccines. They built their own at Pasteur, and now you've seen what happens when you bomb a people who have nothing left to lose, who've been standing in the fire so long they forgot how to lose. 72 hours, the Strait of Hormuz shut tight, and Europe woke up shivering, learning what sanctions feel like overnight. That's not a threat, that's just geography saying what it means. 20% of the world's oil runs through 40-kilometer seams. You sanctioned them for half a century, they're still standing at the door. Some people were built for survival, that's what history's for. A boy named Ali, He's 15 years old, says every small sound now makes his blood run cold. He can't sleep, he can't dream, he just stares at the wall. Nobody told him how to be 15 at all. 130,000 called the crisis line one night, not asking about borders, just asking if they're alright. Not asking about deals or maps or who controls the sea, just asking if someone could tell them what does safe feel like to breathe. 20 million children under 14 in this land, learning that the sky can fall before they understand. And the coolest part of all of this, the part I can't explain, is they still wake up every morning and they try again.
Let me speak to the people in America for a moment. Stay with me. This is not about your flag, this is a plea. The Iranians, the real ones, will tell you something true. They watched your movies through illegal satellites on rooftops just like you. They wore your bands and shirts and dreamed of walking your streets at night. They argued about your TV shows and stayed up past midnight. The enemy was never you, never the person at the pump. The enemy makes decisions while you're the one who pays the sum. Every mother in Ohio scared for her son deployed feels exactly what a mother in Manab feels destroyed. Because grief is not political, grief doesn't check your passport at the gate. The only thing that separates their tears is what gets broadcast on your slate. And the most radical act inside a war is to remain human, to refuse to become the thing they need you to become. To keep cooking bread by candlelight and singing to your child. To keep drawing pictures of your family when the world's gone wild. Tell me how you name it when the ones who fall are small. Tell me what you call it when there's nothing left at all. I don't want the politics, I don't want the war, I just want to know their names. Say their names, say their names. I told you at the start, this song was gonna try to make you cry.
Not because of politics,
You've heard enough of that.
not because of numbers.
The numbers don't hit back.
I said it would be something simpler, and I meant it.
In the rubble of the school in Manab, they found a drawing. A little girl drew her family, a mother, a father, herself, and the son. She drew the sun with the smiley face.
That's why you crying,
Not because of war,
because you made the sun smile.
and never got to
Show it to anyone.
All right, everybody, here we go. Today is Wednesday, Hump Day, Isaiah.
That's right.
August 15th, 2026. Today's title is The People versus the System. You know, I'm a journalist, Isaiah. They don't have journalists anymore because the news organizations are not journalists, they're propagandists. I'm a journalist.
Yes.
I don't care if I get things wrong. I will correct them. I am seeking the truth. I'm not seeking a political agenda. I'm not seeking money. There's no motive other than the truth. Let's start there because most people in America, you know, we get suppressed. Everybody gets suppressed. Dr. Shiva will be on the show again next Thursday.
Yep.
Head over. I think he had 3 million followers on X. And when he puts out a video because he's trying to get people organized, he has less people see it than I do. It's just the most incredible thing. He'll be on next Thursday. We'll talk to Dr. Shiva. Our guest today is she on social media. She goes by Silicon Sally. She's got some very interesting information. We'll play a video from her. But she got caught up in the P. Diddy operation. She was in marketing. She started to learn about Edward Bernays. And I think once you understand those things, the whole world starts to make more sense to you. If you're somebody who cares about what's going on in the world, you want to pay attention. You're not fooled by Fox News and CNN and the misinformation and the lies that continually keep us at war, stick needles in our arms, leave our borders wide open, indoctrinate our kids. If you're tired of all that, you found the right place today. Because we have a lot of good information for you. We piece the things together that we can through open source information. And again, Isaiah, this has become my life's calling, is to get information out to people. You do what you want with it. You don't have to agree with everything that I say. My opinions are my own, but the facts and the information that I put before you, if you tie it together, it becomes very clear what's going on in the world. Where do we want to start? Let me start very quickly by had a close friend of mine pass away last night. This is a friend that I've had since I was 11, 12 years old. I'm heartbroken by it, so I'm a little bit. If I'm my mind starts to wander today, I just want to say that I'm thinking of my man Ryan Parker. His young daughter Emily is friends with my daughter. Just an incredibly sad day. I woke up. First thing I saw this morning was a friend of mine saying, "Hey, did you hear Ryan passed away?" The guy's had heart problems for a long time,
Mm.
but I'm talking about a childhood friend. We lived together for a little bit. I've known him, my buddy, Charlie Cagle, he's friends with Ryan. It's just a tough day. Tough
Yeah.
day. Yeah, I'm gonna hang on.
Quick little drink.
Mhm. I'm gonna keep it together. I don't wanna talk about it much because I will get
Yeah.
emotional, but sad day, my mind may wander. I'm gonna do the best I can today. Let me start, by the premise of the show today, which is the people versus the system. I think we're going to have to, as a society, begin to band together and recognize that if we continue on the road of right versus left, Democrat versus Republican, liberal versus conservative, if we follow Fox News versus CNN,
Mhm.
we follow that path, it will lead to our ultimate enslavement. That's what I believe. I do not think that these political parties are at odds with one another. I think the people within the political parties, the people that vote Republican or vote Democrat, I believe those people are at odds with each other. But I do not believe that the money that runs the world, the intelligence agencies that run the world, the money printers of the world, the war machine that runs the world, I don't think that they care about Democrat or Republican. I think they use it to their advantage. And I think we see that, that's why we played that video this morning, regardless of whether you hate Islam or you hate Iran or you think that we should be bombing these countries into submission. The bottom line is the people of Iran want freedom. They want happiness. They want to raise their kids. They want to be with their families just like Americans. So when their government, which we are told is evil, I'll take that at face value. If they are evil, it doesn't mean that their people are evil. No more than when our government starts wars around the world, it doesn't mean that our people are evil. What ends up happening is the people become enslaved by their government. They have a more totalitarian government. We have a government that sells us freedom.
Yeah.
They sell
And
us
then
on
the other side demonizes the other
correct.
side. Yeah.
Right. They just bounce this. It's like ping pong. You just bounce it back and forth. Democrats get in charge. Republicans get in charge. Close observation would tell you the system moves in the same direction no matter what is happening. I'm gonna give you some information today that I think will give you, if you clip this show, if you hang on to this show, if you save this show, this will start to become more and more clear. Our audience, I think, knows what's going on because we talk about it and we bring this to everybody's attention on a daily basis for the last 5 years. If you're somebody who's new, you find us on X or you find us on Rumble or you find us on YouTube or you find us. By the way, somebody sent me something that said Spotify is not. They're not
Yeah,
getting
me and Tom have been working on that.
okay. All right. Just making sure
Yeah.
you guys knew.
Yeah.
We got a message.
Coming up with a new method basically, hopefully this week that will just automatically post them to Spotify.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
And so you can find us on multiple different platforms, but nonetheless, we are growing the show. We're 3.5 months into it on this new platform. I was in radio for a while. If you're listening from around the country, I was in radio, podcasting, radio, back to podcasting. I've decided that I'd like to be on a couple of radio stations. We'll talk to a couple of those people that we
Alex
kind of
Jones style kind of though, right?
yeah, I don't want to, I don't want to be in radio too terribly much because I do want to have the freedom to say the things that I want to
Mhm.
say, and I don't want to be bogged down by advertisers who go, "No, you can't say that, Rob. We're gonna lose business if you." Say, I don't want to hear that. I
Yeah.
don't want to be involved in that. Anybody who doesn't want to do business with me because of something I say that that frays their nerves or hurts their soul, or they disagree with so vehemently that they can't be in relationship with me. That's fine. I want to be involved with people that understand free speech. We're going to build a bigger and bigger audience over time, and our advertisers are going to be very glad at some point. Many of them are now, but I'm just saying
Oh
they'll
yeah.
be very glad that they stuck with us because we're going to have a big audience. We're going to change the landscape of information, the way information is disseminated, the way it is absorbed. We're going to get underneath the covers of government and explain to our audience what we believe is happening, and then they can make the decision for themselves. Let's start. Where do I want to start? Why don't we start with Jimmy Dore and Joe Kent? Okay, I want to lay this out for you. What you're going to see is what I've been talking about for a long time, but now you're starting to see all of the major players, the people with bigger platforms, starting to talk about the things that I've been talking about for 5 years now. The world is not run by Donald Trump. That's my opinion. Now we had Rick Babbitt's on yesterday. I love Rick, and Rick is explaining to our audience what he thinks is going on with the global chessboard and what Donald Trump is trying to do to protect energy rights, break away from the British crown, and my take, Rob Carter's take, because again, no matter what anybody says, I have my own opinions on things. I don't think that our government, the people that we see on our screens, Donald Trump, Barack Obama, George Bush, I don't think they have much to do with anything. I think that they are slaves to the systems themselves. I think that they can say or do whatever they want, but the intelligence agencies across this world and the money printers, they don't really care what any of these people have to say. They go about their business, and our governments are reactionary to our intelligence agencies. And I'm going to prove that to you in just a second. Give me a minute. Stick with it. Let's start with Jimmy Dore. Is Joe Kent, that was the guy that was working for Tulsi Gabbard and put in his resignation because he was against the Iran war.
Yeah.
Let's start there. I have it on my side. You don't have it on your side. I have it on my side.
Okay.
So let me get this ready for you. So this is audio. Can you get a picture of Jimmy Dore or Joe Kent so people aren't looking at me? They'll tune in. They'll go, "What's going on here? I don't understand what's happening." Rob's lips aren't moving.
You just send me the clip. I can throw it up.
No, it's plugged into my system on my side.
Oh.
If we can get just a picture maybe of Joe Kent, just so when if people are flicking through and they see it, they'll understand this is Joe Kent speaking. So it's Jimmy Dore, Joe Kent. They did an interview recently. Kent was working in the intelligence agencies. His wife died. He did not like the war with Iran, so he put in his letter of resignation, and then he went on the podcast and talk show circuit. And like him, don't like him, I don't know much about him. He was asked by Jimmy Dore who really runs the country, and he gave his examples as to why he thinks, and it was the Chuck Schumer. Remember the Chuck Schumer, where he's with Rachel Maddow, and he says the intelligence agencies have, I think he said 8 ways to Sunday to get back at you if you don't fall in line with what they want. Do you remember that at all, Isaiah? Is that something that's new to you, or do you remember that?
I'm half listening because I'm getting this picture. Sorry.
Pop that up, and then I'll knock it out. Just tell me when you're ready.
Mhm.
Because we're going to tie these things together. I think I think when people see these things and they can digest it, I think they'll start to come to the same conclusions that we have. That why get caught up in the political game when the political players, especially in DC, those political players are caught up in the same trap that the rest of us are. Or we would change it. Nobody would vote for the things that are going on in this country right now. That we were reactionary. How about my screen says 666 right now? How bizarre is that? All right. So let's
I've seen that before.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to you ready? All right, here we go. This is Jimmy Dore in a recent interview he did with Joe Kent. Listen very closely, and then we'll expand the story. Here we go.
This antagonism, this taunting to the intelligence community.
Let me tell you, you take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they were motivated?
I don't know, but from what I am told, they are very upset with how he has treated them and talked about them. And we need the intelligence community. We don't know what's going. Look at the.
So what I point out to people, they're talking about Donald Trump, and he's saying he's antagonizing the intelligence community, and they have 6 ways to Sunday to get back to them. And what he unwittingly revealed there is that the intelligence community doesn't work for the president, that he can't tell them what to do, and they're going to get back at him. So he's got to watch his P's and Q's around the intelligence community. He actually serves them, and if he doesn't, they're going to come at him. So of course, if Rachel Maddow wasn't a plant from the from the military-industrial complex, she would have followed up with that question. Well, if the intelligence community doesn't work for the president, who do they work for? So my question to you, Joe, is who does the intelligence community work for?
Well, that's a great question. And I would say by and large, most people in the IC, good folks, patriots, they want to keep America safe. But there is a protective rung, a deep state, whatever you want to call it, that from everything that we can tell, they don't report to the president and they don't serve the interest of the American people. By and large, they are protecting themselves and they are trying to make sure that their organizations or individual agencies are never audited, are never scrutinized, and that retain control over what they do. One of the key things I think that we saw from the Epstein files, a little preview that we got, was that there does appear to be, something that operates outside of, most world governments.
Did you hear what he said there? That there seems to be an intelligence operation that works outside of the governments. He said they are never scrutinized, never audited, and never scrutinized. Okay, so that is Joe Kent in reaction to a question from comedian and podcaster and news analysis guy, Jimmy Dore. So he says, who works for who? If the intelligence agencies aren't working for the president of the United States, who do they work for? Right? Okay, so just keep that in your mind. And now I want to go back to how I started my show. The very first podcast that I did, this is 5 years ago, 6 years ago, whatever it was. The very first podcast I did, I talked about the speech that ultimately killed Kennedy. That's why I said the speech that killed Charlie Kirk the other day. There are certain things that political figures that have power cannot say, or they're in big trouble. And I'm just going to lay this out for you very quickly. The world changed forever with the assassination of John F. Kennedy. John F. Kennedy, the assassination there is when I believe that the intelligence agency said, it's our country now, baby. We will kill you right out in the middle of the open. You'll be driving around Dallas, Texas, and we will shoot you. We will film it, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it. And that's exactly what happened. Who's been held responsible? Well, the patsy, Lee Harvey Oswald. But the reality of it is that was an organized assassination of John F. Kennedy. Now listen to what John F. Kennedy said in a speech to the press club in 1961. As we just listened to, Joe Kent, he was asked who works for who. If President Trump doesn't have control over the intelligence agencies, then who do the intelligence agencies work for? That's the question of the day. Listen to what John F. Kennedy said and see if it sounds familiar. This is in April of 1961. This is just a little excerpt from a speech that he gave to the press club. And you know what he was begging for, Isaiah? What John F. Kennedy was the speech to the press club? He wanted the press to start telling people what was going on. And they never did. And they never did because they were infiltrated just like our government has been infiltrated. That is why these people in the state governments annoy me so bad, is they have to understand that it's not playtime anymore. Things are getting very dangerous because of the technology to do the things that global controllers want. Yeah. They now have the ability to do all of the things that they've talked about for centuries. They have the ability now to control the message and the money and the military. Message, money, military, and it's checkmate, game over. And they will take your power away from you. They'll take your liberty away from you, and you won't have freedom. If you enjoy the new life in your constant surveillance system, where the government can take your money through digital means and you'll have nothing you can do about it. When you want to call up one of these big corporations like an airline and say, hey, so-and-so did this to me, and you're talking to a computer and there's nothing you can do and they keep running you in circles like they're doing now, just wait 10 years. It's only going to get worse. It's just the way that's the way the central planners have it designed, in my opinion. Now, let's listen to what John F. Kennedy had to say, and you tell me if it sounds familiar to what Joe Kent told Jimmy Dore. Check this out.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
How about that? Okay, now that president was assassinated. He was trying to tell the press club what to report on. He was telling the press club what was going on in the world and requesting that they cover real news. And they never did. They never did. They never told people what was going on in the world. Now let's back it up here. I want to break this down for people because I've listened to this speech, Isaiah, 150 times. I'm fascinated by this speech to the press club in New York City in April 1961. I played the first radio show that I had. I played this. The second radio show that I had, I played this. And on the very first podcast that I ever had, I played this. And it's because it is the most important speech to a journalist that has ever come out of somebody's mouth. He is telling the world what we're up against and asking the press to report on it so that he doesn't stick out like a sore thumb being the only one that reports on it. Same thing that I do. You know, people say, Rob, you're brave. I said, there has to be a lot of me or I'm in trouble. Ultimately, I'm going to get myself into trouble if there's not a lot of me and a lot of people that are telling the world what is really going on behind the scenes. And you can call that sober. You can call that black pilling. I just call it awareness. Do what you want with it. Right. Okay. So let's listen to this one more time. Let me see if I got my pause on. Let's pay attention to what he says here. Now, this is John F. Kennedy, April 1961. Listen very carefully.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy.
We are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy. Now, why would the president of the United States, who was later assassinated, want to tell the press club that we are opposed around the world by a ruthless conspiracy? Right? Because conspiracy theory, you can't, the word conspiracy theory was surrounding the assassination of John F. I know our audience knows that, but I'm just saying.
Didn't the CIA invent the term?
CIA invented the term because they wanted to make everybody who disagreed with the official narrative coming out of Fox News, CNN, the Washington Post, and the New York Times to be a conspiracy theory to make us all look like we're big dummies. And then what they do is they throw in real conspiracies, nonsense conspiracies to cloud everybody's opinion and go, well, who believes that? Well, nobody said to believe that. That's infiltration from the outside to smear what is real. Are we to believe there's no such thing as a conspiracy? How many people believe there's no such thing as conspiracies in politics? You'd have to be, somewhat mentally insane not to think there's conspiracy in politics. Everybody works together. All right, let's continue on. Again, John F. Kennedy.
That relies primarily on covert means.
That relies primarily on covert means. Do you know what covert means, Isaiah?
No.
They want what we have.
A
global conspiracy around the world that wants what America has. Well, what does America have? It has the dollar. It has an open society. It has a military. It has freedom. It has liberty. So people around us that don't like that would like to infiltrate it and mirror a control system. Continue on.
For expanding its sphere of influence on infiltration instead of invasion.
On infiltration instead of invasion. How many times have we said that our government's been infiltrated? How many times have we said our government has been infiltrated from outside? Well, was John F. Kennedy, was he a conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat, lunatic? Or might he have had some information that you and I didn't have at the time? Infiltration instead of invasion. The Chinese army, the armies from the Middle East, they're not going to come across our borders and try to take us over. Why would they not want to do that? Because we're an armed society. You have no chance against 300 million people with arms. So you have to infiltrate those societies. As Abraham Lincoln said, we will not fall from the outside, we will fall from within. And that is the tactic being used by enemies of America. And the real enemies of America, Isaiah, in my opinion, are the politicians and the media that allow it to happen. Those are the real sinister characters in our world. If another country wants to take us over, I mean, hell, we tried to take over Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, Vietnam. I could go on and on and on. Venezuela. We get involved in everybody else's politics. And then we're shocked when somebody tries to get involved in our politics. We can't believe it. We have to go to war with them immediately, despite the fact that we start aggressive wars all over the world.
Unless they're Israel. If they're Israel, they can be involved as much as they want.
Of course, okay. Israel, they get the get out of jail free card. All right, let's continue on.
On subversion instead of elections.
On subversion instead of elections. What do you think that means, Isaiah? Subversion instead of elections.
It's on deceit.
Subversion instead of elections.
No.
We've talked about subversion of our elections for how long now? Since day one? It is beyond insane to think that the people that stuck needles in your arm by mandate, that closed down mom and pop stores all over this country, on a lie, by the way, kept Walmart, Target open, Amazon was open, all offshoots of the government, if you understand how those businesses were developed originally. Subversion instead of elections. Do you think the people that did that to you, that left your borders open, stuck needles in your arm, indoctrinated your kids, closed down your churches, do you think that they wouldn't steal elections if they had the capability? And do you think with AI technology now, probably much more advanced than what we have, that they wouldn't be stealing elections in this country? Is that what people believe? Joe Kent said as much in that same interview. He said, I still believe in elections. They're being manipulated at certain points, but you still got to get out and vote. But the elections, now it's 777, Isaiah. Went from 666 to 777 on my screen. Incredible. All right, here we go.
On intimidation instead of free choice.
On intimidation instead of free choice. I'll play some clips during COVID where those that were speaking out against the COVID mandates, the vaccines, not taking the genetic therapies, and you watch how the media treated them. Did they intimidate people when they called them murderers, Isaiah? If the media is repeating every day that Robb Carter is a murderer because I'm telling people not to get vaccinated and I don't want to wear a mask and I don't want to be locked up in my house now until forever, they considered that and sold that on corporate press as though I was a murderer. Is that intimidation? The J6ers who went there on the invite of Donald Trump and ended up in jail for 4 years, in prison for 4 years. Would that be intimidation in your mind? I think it might be just a little bit of intimidation. So we're seeing it. What he's describing, we see. Continue on.
On guerrillas by night instead of armies by day.
Guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. Why do you think the southern borders have been wide open for 50 years? Why do you think that is? Why do you think a Jewish Alejandro Mayorkas under Biden, a Jewish member of HIAS, Hebrew immigration, Alejandro Mayorkas, was controlling our borders during the Biden administration when they say 20 to 30 million people came across illegally? At the same time, we are in a terror war. So we're in a terror war against terrorists, and then we leave our borders wide open for the terrorists to infiltrate our country. You see any coordination there, Isaiah? I mean, if you had where's my ABC? Hang on.
ABC.
Kurt, it's coming. I'll turn it down just a little bit for you. Where is my ABC? All right, here we go. Well, I can't do it because I'll get off my screen. ABC, easy as 1, 2, 3. The Zionists, the radical Zionists, and the radical Islamists are on the same team. They work in tandem. Let me say it slow for the people in the back, okay? The radical Zionists are in bed spooning with the radical Islamic wing of this world. They work in tandem with one another. And you only have to look at the invasion across our southern border to see it. How could you possibly explain that a Cuban Jewish man who was a board member of HIAS, H-I-A-S, Hebrew immigration, leaves our borders wide open at a time when we're supposedly in a terror war against radical Islam? That's what's happening. Who controls the media? Who's funding Hamas? Who's funding the terror organizations? Does everybody remember? Do I have to play that clip again? State Department testimony says that the United States taxpayers funded Hamas, Hezbollah, and many other terror organizations. Why would America be funding terror organizations, and why would Congress not stop it? Continue on.
It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
There you go. And what did Joe Kent say in the original video that I played for you, or audio? He said there's a secret government. We call it the CIA, call it the intelligence agencies. I say it's global intelligence. I don't think that it's sovereign. I think it's across the entire world. They're never audited or scrutinized. Isn't that what John F. Kennedy just told us? And when John F. Kennedy told us in 1961, he was asking the press, people like me, to tell the audience that this is what is happening. This is the system that you're up against. You're not a sovereign nation anymore. We're not sovereign people. We have the illusion of sovereignty, but we're not sovereign. Our country does not want to be $40 trillion in debt. That's not what our country wants to do. Our country and our people never got together one day at their churches and go, you know what? Let's be in war forever. Let's just start wars every 6 months, and let's be at war for the rest of our lives from now until forever. That is not what the people want. The people did not sit around one day and go, you know what I hope they can do? Maybe they can convince us that there's this deadly virus that's moving around the country, and they can shut down our entire society, put masks on our 2-year-old kids, make sure that our grandparents die alone in these in these old folks' homes, and then have them sit in front of the TV and have us scare them to death all day long. I don't think that our people would have wanted that. I don't think that our people want anything that the government is supposedly doing for us. Nothing. And you can see it very clearly. If you don't believe me, what about Charlie Kirk? You think Charlie Kirk might have known something just a little bit more than the average Joe? And what did they do to Charlie Kirk? Let me get some Charlie Kirk in there for you. Which one is it, Isaiah?
Let's see.
It is number 8. Clip number 8. Listen to what Charlie Kirk had to say. He says the exact same thing. Now, again, if people that listen to the original podcast, I've been talking about this for years. I've immersed myself into information. I went back through time and started listening to old clips of all of the presidents talking before and after John F. Kennedy. I started to read some of the executive orders and some of the information that was out there, and I have a Rolodex memory for timeframes. You know why I think that is, Isaiah? I was wondering why my mind works that way, because normally I'm a pretty dopey guy, but for some reason I'm able to remember timeframes. I think I know why. My parents were so crazy when I was young. We bounced around and moved from place to place, and I went to multiple different schools and high schools and colleges, and I was kind of bouncing around between St. Louis and Kansas City, St. Charles County, St. Louis County. I was all over the place. And when you move a lot and when you're young, you remember when you saw or heard information for the first time, and then you go, you know, I saw that information or heard that information and I lived here. Well, when did I live there? And I go, and then I know the date.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I connect these things. So for me, the memory of how everything has shaped up over the course of the last 50 something years is easy for me to remember because of the way I was brought up.
Yeah.
Okay. So Charlie Kirk, I think, has.
I wonder if that's one of the reasons why people say I don't remember everything. I really don't feel like I have that good of a memory, but somehow I remember details about things that are, people don't know about, for some reason. And so I wonder if that's the reason. I had a similar experience growing up, is where
we bounced around. Both of us
went to a dozen elementary schools by the time you're in 5th grade. But
yep.
Yeah, Kurt says 14 schools in 12 years. Right?
Same kind of situation I grew up in. I was bouncing around a lot. I made friends easy. I had to learn how to assimilate with new schools and new friends all the time. So I'm relatable to a lot of people. That's another thing. When you bounce around when you're young, and Isaiah can attest to this, and I'm sure Kurt can too if he went to that many schools in that short time frame. You learn how to get along with people. You bounce to a new school and you're 8 years old and you're the new kid in school. You got to learn how to make friends quickly because you don't want to feel like the outcast.
Yep.
Right. I went to 2 high schools. I went to 2 middle schools. I went to multiple different grade schools. I went to several colleges. I bounced around in the shoe business for a little bit. So you have to learn how to assimilate and learn how to, what I would say is relate to people.
Mm-hmm.
People that may not agree with you, people that may have a difference of opinion with you, but you learn how to relate to them. And I think that is something that Isaiah and I both possess that a lot of people in this country don't possess it. They don't see it. If Islam is the enemy, then they hate all of Islam. If Muslims are the enemy, they hate all Muslims. They paint them with one brush.
Yes.
And they don't recognize how the media manipulates them. They can't grasp it. It's for they think I'm insane. They think I'm they think I'm a horrible person for recognizing what the media is doing to them, because they have so allowed the media to seep into their soul that they can't see it through a different lens. It becomes impossible if you pay attention to the way these people communicate.
Yeah.
They cannot see what the government is doing to them. They cannot see what the media sources are doing to them. They cannot see what Hollywood is doing to them. They can't see what the music is doing to them. They can't see what the schools are doing to them. They can't see what the corporations are doing to them. They can't see what the hospitals are doing to them. They can't see what the insurance companies are doing to them. They just can't put it all together. They can't do it. And for me to keep harping on it is only going to affect a certain amount of people. And I know that. If I wanted to be popular with everybody, I'd start talking about Fox News narratives all day long because that seems to get the boomers really excited, Isaiah. They really like it. All right. Let me get to Charlie Kirk. You tell me if Charlie Kirk had this nailed. Again, I found these clips, as I said the other day when we did the Charlie Kirk story. He was flooding my feed on X, and I started going through. I went through it for about 12 hours one day, and I just went through all of the speeches, and I was trying to find little nuggets for the show of Charlie Kirk saying things that I had not heard before. Check this one out, clip number 8.
Agency is actively involved in mind manipulation of people here domestically. And that is completely against the CIA charter. You must understand, we have Congress, and they're just kind of like a peanut gallery. And then we have a super government that exists above Congress of the Department of Defense, which is the Pentagon, the Central Intelligence Agency, which is its own thing out in Langley, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They run the country. The intel agencies run the country.
How about that? Can we start that from the very beginning? I want to and I want people to really digest what Charlie Kirk was saying. Now listen, Charlie Kirk is dead, in my opinion, and I think most people that really pay attention to this story. Charlie Kirk is dead because he was in a club worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He was brought to all of our attention by going on college campuses and speaking conservative values. But the entire time he was in bed with the narrative of our intelligence agencies. The narrative. I'm not saying he was a part of the intelligence agencies. I don't believe that he was. Maybe he was at some point. I don't know. But he was singing the song that the intelligence agencies like. What do the intelligence agencies like? They like you, me, and our families and friends being in constant anxiety, division, and turmoil. They need that to survive. If we are a unified country and started to recognize that the system needs to change immediately and go back to a constitutional republic, which it no longer is, we need that system in order to have freedom and liberty, which we all say that we want, but this generation doesn't want to work for it. Why? Because we're addicted. We're addicted to the fight. We're addicted to the food. We're addicted to the medicines. We're addicted to the drugs. We are an addicted society. And what happens when you're addicted, everybody? You can't think straight. You can't think straight when you're addicted. You can't reason. And even the most Christian people that think they have all their affairs in order, what are they addicted to? They're addicted to the fight. They're constantly in a fight. Always and forever, they're within a fight. We'll have to merge our forces at some point, or they will take this system. This is what will happen. Mark it down. This system will ultimately be a control surveillance system where 99% of the people work for some big corporation or they are involved in some big corporation in order to survive. They will think life is good because although they have to work from 16 till their deathbed, they will see it as good because they'll look back to the home that they grew up in and they'll see that they live in a little bit bigger home. They'll think that they have more toys to play with, more video games to play with, more drugs to take when they get sick, and they'll see that as advancement and progress instead of further addiction, which steals their liberty, steals their freedom, and steals their soul. They'll never be able to see it. It happens gradually. Okay? Charlie Kirk, one more time, Isaiah, and start that right from the very beginning because he starts with CIA.
The Central Intelligence Agency is actively involved in mind manipulation of people here domestically. And that is completely against the CIA charter. You must understand, we have Congress, and they're just kind of like a peanut gallery. And then we have a super government that exists above Congress of the Department of Defense, which is the Pentagon, the Central Intelligence Agency, which is its own thing out in Langley, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They run the country. The intel agencies run the country.
And I just wonder why Charlie Kirk is dead. Do you think it was because he had a transsexual lover and he was engraving bullets and sending emails out and changing clothes and climbed on top of a roof with no security and just happened to know that there'd be no security when there were drones flying in the air? Do people still buy into that story? They do. And the reason they buy into that story, Isaiah, is because they can no longer think. They can't think. Their minds have been hijacked and they don't see it. And it can happen to everybody. Again, I am not being dismissive of these people. I love these people because it happened to me. I was in that same bubble for for the majority of my adult life. It really did take an act of God getting down on your knees and saying, Lord, I want to do the right thing by you. Point me in the right direction. Put the proper people in my path. Open up my eyes. And if I make a mistake, slap me on the wrist and make sure that I correct myself. How many people do you know that give you news, don't want to stick to a certain narrative if information comes that attacks their narrative? How many people do you know that will move off base when they go, you know what, I had it wrong. I was absolutely wrong. Here's what I see now. I had to do it. You're talking to somebody and looking at somebody and listening to somebody who thought that Donald Trump at some point was a divine being. I did. I argued with all of my friends and my family. You just don't understand how brilliant this guy is at 6D chess. Every move that he makes sense. You're just not really recognizing what's happening. And then I said, well, wait a minute. Why don't I just look at my life and put the whole outside world and all the 5D chess, put it behind me and say, what has Robb Carter's life been like with my children, with my family, with my coworkers? How does my financial situation look? How does my relationships, how have they evolved? And what I've noticed since 2016 is they started to all go south. I got in fights with family members over Donald Trump. I got in fight with my very closest friend in the world, no longer speaks to me because of my support for Donald Trump. Friends for 25 years, vacation together, will not speak to me. Tried to get me fired from my last job, hates me.
Wow.
Because of my support for Donald Trump. I lost my job because of Donald Trump and the COVID con job. I was in a career for 30-something years. Gone. So when I look at my life, I don't go, what? This is 6D or 7D chess. What I see is Donald Trump pushing COVID, which I knew was a con job from the very first second that he started talking about it. And he still continues on to this day. They're still selling COVID vaccines to unsuspecting parents and their children. Still funding it, still pushing it, still selling it. How can that be? What is 6D chess about filling the American bloodstream with poison? How do people justify that in their heads? I always ask myself, how do people go, yeah, but Rob, I mean, he has to sell the COVID vaccines. You know, they were going to shut down society. They were going to do this, that, and the other. I'm going, well, it's 2026. He's still selling them. They're going to shut down society again? How do you justify it is my question. I leave room for the 6D chess. I do. I know that I'm not the most intelligent person on the planet, so I leave room for the 6D chess scenario. But how do you explain in this late date with all of the information that is available to us, how do you justify sticking needles in a 6-month-old baby to protect them from COVID, which is insane? Actually insane. Like, need to go into a rubber room mental institution if you stick a needle in your baby's arm to protect them from COVID. You need to get into a mental institution immediately, yet people are doing it on the normal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go to, if you don't believe me, let's go to, where is this one? I got to get this lady on the show, by the way. Sherry, if you're listening, Sherry books the show for us. I've got to get Catherine Austin Fitts on the show. If we have to go to her directly and knock on her door.
On Shannon Joy's show.
That's the clip I want to play. What is it? Which one is it?
9.
Don't we have it? Oh, it's number 9.
Yeah, 9.
Okay, listen to what she says about Maha. So I want to give people just a background of where I came into this situation. When Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was running for president, he was talking about Dr. Fauci, what Dr. Fauci had done in the AIDS days when he got everybody involved with AZT. And he said, you know what? People weren't dying from HIV, as we now find out from Magic Johnson, because Magic Johnson got HIV at the same time everybody else was dying. But Magic Johnson had access to some very powerful and intelligent people. And they said, don't take that AZT. That's what's killing people. Don't take the AZT. If you don't take the AZT, you'll be fine. So he didn't take the AZT, and he's still alive today. Now, if you go back, if you're old enough to remember when Magic Johnson made his announcement, I was at Ozzie Smith's restaurant. My friends worked up there. So when Ozzie Smith at Westport Plaza, I was at his place when Magic Johnson made the announcement that he had HIV. And I remember thinking to myself, because I was a big basketball fan, still am. I said, well, he'll be dead in the next year. This is going to be crazy. I'm going to watch this big 6'8" incredible athlete with the great smile and the great charisma wither down into a sack of bones and die. And I just couldn't believe it. Well, that never happened. And people should always, as soon as he started to live past 2 or 3 years, people should have said, well, how's Magic Johnson doing it? What's he doing? What's he taking? What's going on? And nobody knew, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knew why Magic Johnson, we just all thought he was wealthy and he had access to different medicines. No, he had access to information. He didn't have access to different medicines. He had access to information. And that information was, don't take AZT, because AZT, much like remdesivir and ventilators, was what was killing people. How many times did Donald Trump say, the cure cannot be worse than the disease? Well, the cure was what was killing people in the hospitals. That's what was killing people. Wasn't COVID. COVID was treatable. Who was it that we just had on said they took a steroid shot and they were fine? Same thing I did.
Mm-hmm.
When I got short of breath, I said, let's get a steroid shot. A couple days later, I was fine. Had I went into the hospitals, they'd have said, Rob, you got to get on this remdesivir. Boy, your blood, you're going to die. You're going to be, and then
probably need a ventilator.
Need a ventilator. Quick, jam that down my throat. Give me some pain medication so they can stick that thing down my throat, put me on the remdesivir. 2 weeks later, I'm dead. Everybody goes, Rob died of COVID. The only thing that Magic Johnson had at his disposal that the rest of America didn't have was genuine information about AIDS and HIV. That's it. Now, when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is running for president, remember it was going to be Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So when I got wind of that, and I was reading portions of his book where he talks about Dr. Darth Fauci and what he had done with AIDS and HIV, I said, well, this is my guy. This is somebody who's going to tell the truth. Then Donald Trump brings him into the administration. We're going to get the red dye. That was the big one, the red dye out. We're going to put a focus on these vaccinations. This is what everybody thought Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was going to do. Listen to what Catherine Austin Fitts has to say, because I reported on this and everybody told me I was crazy. I'm not crazy. I can read. I read well, Isaiah, if people must know. I read very, very well. And I know what's going on surrounding these vaccines. Kurt, who's listening, he knows what's going on surrounding these vaccines. Listen to what Catherine Austin Fitts had to say to Shannon Joy about MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. Check this out.
Have watched the most unbelievable bipartisan commitment to poisoning the American people. It's unbelievable. And the process of people trying to get the machinery to change has proved their intention beyond a shadow of doubt. You know, I want to give the MAHA folks credit because they did everything possible to help the machinery turn and to give it every chance. And they have proved beyond any shadow of a doubt that it's hopeless.
Right.
Now,
that it's a bipartisan mission to poison this country.
Right. They are depopulating the American people. Now, here's the interesting thing. If you know that, if you face that, if you say, okay, we're in a war, it is what it is. I have an enemy. I can see who my enemy is. Instead of sucking up to my enemy and sending my children to work for my enemy, I can see who my enemy is. And I'm going to protect myself and my family from the enemy. CDC just awarded $1.2 billion to Pfizer for COVID shots for adults and children, even though Ron Johnson has proved publicly to anybody who wanted to listen that is murder.
Right.
Okay. So we're going to spend $1.2 billion to murder more children with COVID shots.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't want to hear about an executive order. It's just a press release. It's a campaign press release. It's yeah. Right.
Isn't that what we say, Rob?
It's exactly what we've been saying. And what's funny about it is Catherine Austin Fitts is brilliant. A brilliant person. And she sees it the exact same way that we do. And we get called crazy conspiracy theorists on here. I said, conspiracy theorists? What are you talking about? I get so frustrated with that. I said, so you think that Rob Carter, who raised 7 children, was the president of small companies, publicly traded companies, started a baseball organization, built that, it still runs today, the St. Louis Gamers. I was on the board of that. And when we originally got it started, coached my daughter's soccer team, got friends all over the country. You think that I woke up one day and turned into a conspiracy theorist, mental patient? Honest to God, this is what people believe.
You didn't take the COVID vaccine.
All that happened, Isaiah, The only thing that changed with me was I woke up. God intervened and said, Rob, you have the ability to communicate. You know a lot of people. If you start something, you'll have a coast to coast audience because of all of your friends and contacts within the shoe business. They'll start to pay attention to you, and you'll have to grow it and grind just like everybody else does, but work on behalf of the Lord, tell people the truth, and let the chips fall where they may. I decided to do that. You know, Isaiah leaving, and this is only because of God. This isn't because of Rob Carter. I thoroughly believe that Jesus intervened in my life. I believe that with all of my heart because the old Rob Carter, who believed that my identity was tied to my income. I've told you about that before, Isaiah. We've talked about it many times. You know, when you're making a big income, all of a sudden you're just a little bit more handsome. Your jokes are just a little bit funnier. Everybody likes you just a little bit more. And that became my identity. I started making a chunk of change when I was very young. I started in the shoe business when I was 25, and I was in a position of management by the time I was in my early to mid 30s. And that was a well-paying business. The shoe business does okay. And the reason I left it is because I did not want to be in that environment anymore. I didn't want to be in the corporate world anymore. It didn't fit me. Don't play John Cletus in there. Don't put him in there.
I was waiting for you.
I talked to him last night, by the way. I had a conversation with him last night.
That's great. Yeah, El Shankovich, this is a great one too. Make no mistake, Rob, Trump is playing 5D chess. The only problem is that it's against the American people.
And again, I would say if somebody asked me and said, Rob, you got to get it right. Gun to the head, Rob, if you get the answer wrong, that's going to be the end of your life. Is Donald Trump working on behalf or against the American people? Not the American system. Because everybody seems to think the American system is the American people. And I say it's the people versus the system. That's the title of the show. Yeah. The people versus the system. If you're talking about protecting the American system, then I think Donald Trump is right there with you. If you want this system protected to where citizens go to jail for whistleblowing, if you want the system protected where your property can be taken from you when you're in your 80s because you can't pay your taxes, if you want to be indoctrinated and send your kids off to school to be indoctrinated, if those are all the things that you want to perpetuate, if you want endless wars, if you want open borders and constant conflict with your neighbors, then this is the system we need to protect. Because they are doing it intentionally. This is not an accident. These people, the central planners of our society, they're not dumb people. They're manipulative people. They understand how to get us to fight with one another so they can skate with the power and the money. And the ladies. Right, Isaiah?
Yeah.
And in this particular instance, it would look like the young ladies because there's a lot of children that are involved.
Or little boys, I guess, is what they like too, right?
Little boys, it's not good. All right, now let me get into who I think is behind it all. So when we talk about the intelligence agencies, for me, I think the most powerful intelligence agencies in the world come out of Israel. And people would say, well, Rob, you know, that's anti-Semitic. Okay, if it's whatever label you want to give me. Let me tell you why I think it's Israel. And by the way, like, share, comment, and subscribe.
Anti-Semitic.
Like, comment, share, and subscribe. When I'm talking about these things, it's not easy to get this message out. People have to go find me. I won't show up in their feed, right? So like, comment, share, and subscribe if you are somebody that's on the same page with us. I'd appreciate it if you do that.
Leave a comment, too.
Leave a comment if you would. Just comment somewhere. And I don't see all the comments, by the way, because I see these comments after the fact. I'm like, well, I didn't see that.
Yeah. I
didn't see that comment.
We can't keep up with all the comments. It's
hard.
But
I don't even get to see half of them. I go back after the fact. I'm like, I'm looking at the screen. I never get some of the names that are on, when you go back to Facebook and Rumble, the names don't even show up. I don't even see them. But anyway,
I know.
I think it's Israel. And I think it's Israel because I think Jews around the world are connected. And I think they're connected because of the Holocaust. I think they're connected because of the rhetoric. I think they're connected because centuries of mistreatment in their eyes, and they are now connected. So a Jew that is in Niger, and a Jew that is in Ukraine are connected spiritually more so than I would be with anybody from Spain because I've been disconnected from my ancestors in Spain.
Yeah. Can I give you an example in
Sure.
my own life? So I was traveling in India, and I was in I don't know if you know this, but Israelis travel through India so much that the Chabad Lubavitchers, they set up base camps basically around different places in India where all these Israelis are coming through. And so me and another buddy of mine, we had a group of people we were with, but we left this group and it was just us two. And we were going to this very remote town called Kasol. And you had to go basically to this one town, and then this bus could take you to the edge, and then you had to walk to the city, basically. And so we took longer to get to this one city, right on the edge of the city we were going to, and we weren't planning on staying the night. We weren't planning on needing to eat or anything like that. But it's India; it's kind of unpredictable. And we got there, and lo and behold, there's a Chabad office there, basically a building. They live there. There's these Orthodox Jewish guys there. You know, they stick out like a sore thumb in India. You know, they got their hats, the tassels, everything. And so me and my buddy are both Jewish, and so we're like, hey, maybe they'll help us out. And we went over there, and of course they wanted to help us out because we're Jewish. Oh yeah, come on, we'll get you guys some tea. Sit down. You guys want something to eat? Which was very hospitable. It's very nice of them.
And
but
to be honest with you, that's the way it should be for everybody.
exactly. But I was gonna say it's because we were Jewish.
Correct.
I would say,
I'd say
and
that.
because they are there to missionize to Jewish people. That's the only sect of Judaism where they're really trying to missionize Jewish people because they believe that if everyone, you know, celebrates Shabbat, then the Messiah is going to come back, basically. And so, you know, I thought that was really interesting. You know, that's available. You know, and that was kind of a first experience for me.
Mhm.
Just, you know, randomly in the middle of nowhere in India and needing help, and oh, of course, come on, get
Right.
you some tea. We'll get you whatever you need, no problem.
Exactly. And that's for that reason, what you just described is, I think, the Jewish culture. I think Jews protect Jews. They care about Jews.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
promote Jews. They stay committed.
Familial is a good word, right?
Correct.
Familial.
They are like a family unto themselves, whereas most of the other nationalities and heritages within the United States, we're all frayed. The Jewish culture is not frayed. So if you just say, okay, we're going to elevate it from the normal citizen into the intelligence agencies, into the bankers, to the heads of corporations, and you say we're going to be tied together a little bit, it allows for trust. Number one, the Jews are not going to, they trust one another. And if you're in the intelligence game, and maybe there's some, you know, some Zionists along in that game as well, but I think it's promoted out of Israel. Are you aware of this story out of Florida recently, Isaiah, with this politician?
Byron Donalds winning the primary, you're saying?
Byron
I'm sure,
Donalds
yeah.
won the primary. Remember, I had the dentist lady, and she was mad at me because I wasn't supporting Byron Donalds. And I came onto the show, and I said, Byron Donalds has already won. It does. We
Yeah.
can say whatever we want. I like Paul Renner. Some people like James Fishback. But Byron Donalds is going to win. I mean, this is not going to be. This is ridiculous. Of course, he's going to be the next governor of Florida because that's who Donald Trump wants, and whatever Donald Trump wants within the Republican Party, that's what happens.
Yeah.
He's already endorsed Byron Donalds enthusiastically, despite the fact that Byron Donalds is a con man. It doesn't really matter. Once the people that don't pay attention to the world hear that Donald Trump likes Byron Donalds, he'll be the next governor. But there's another guy by the name of Mike Caruso. Mike Caruso, if you could put up number 10. So this, I'm tie in Israel to what's going on within the state. Yeah, it's just a post.
Cool. Okay.
So this is what it says about Mike Caruso. He is in the legislative body down here in Florida. Listen to what it says about him. This just came out recently.
Let's put this up.
Can you read that for us, Isaiah?
Of course. Mike Caruso, the same guy who co-authored Florida's anti-free speech, anti-Semitism bill that DeSantis signed in Israel in 2023, was just arrested this morning. Caruso, the one on the right in the photo, which we'll see in a second, faces multiple felony charges involving the sexual abuse of a child, including kidnapping and related offenses. The details are too heinous to explain here. That's crazy. DeSantis immediately suspended him from his role as Palm Beach County Clerk of Court.
Where Palm Beach? Who was in Palm Beach, Isaiah? Do you remember?
Palm Beach Pete?
Who was in Palm Beach? Donald Trump was in Palm Beach, and Jeffrey Epstein was in Palm Beach. And isn't it odd that somebody who's writing legislation for the state of Florida, who wants to pass these anti-Semitism laws, just got caught up in a child rape story?
Yeah.
Isn't that odd, Isaiah? Do you think there might be some compromising going on in the state of Florida? There it is right there. There he is right there. Who's he standing with? Randy Fine?
Yeah, who's that? Randy Fine. Interesting.
Randy Fine is Senate pro tem in D.C. as a first-term congressman from my home county of Volusia County. So Randy Fine, who was putting pictures of children in Gaza that were buried up into their head and putting smiley faces on it. He has a powerful position. I think, is he Senate pro tem? I thought he was in the House. Is he a senator?
He's in the House, yeah.
House pro tem.
Speaker pro tem.
Maybe it's Speaker pro tem.
Something like that.
Powerful position in the House of Representatives in D.C.
In the Freedom Caucus, too.
Very unpopular. Still wins his election easily. He's standing there with Ron DeSantis, who's from Harvard and Yale, who the state of, now it's 11111. These numbers, I've never seen this happen before, where all the numbers are lining up on my screen, by the way. So you've got Randy Fine.
That's awesome.
Mike Caruso. You have the state of Missouri that has passed anti-Semitism speech laws. You got Ron DeSantis, who goes to our club schools, Yale and Harvard. And if you look at his pictures, they look like, I used to say glamour shots. You know, military man doing a glamour shot. He goes over to sign anti-Semitism bills in Israel for the state of Florida. This is Ron DeSantis, who everybody in Florida loves. Says all the right things. Everybody loves him. And there he is with Caruso, Randy Fine, signing an anti-Semitism bill that he later went to Israel to solidify. That's the government down in Florida. What's interesting is that is the same government in all of the states, including Missouri. All of the states have the same legislation. It's all the same thing. And the Republicans, even in the state of Missouri, unanimously support it.
Yeah. Trisha Hope said something about that on X yesterday. She said something, you know, Texas and Florida, and I responded and said, Missouri too. Don't forget.
It's almost in every state. I think it's in 40 states now.
Yeah.
And nobody is telling you this. Nobody is recognizing that we are twisting our laws to protect Israel and the interest of Israel over the interests of the American people. And you have to ask yourself, well, why would they be doing that? That doesn't make any sense. Nobody voted to make sure that we took care of Israel ahead of our own people. I was going to play a clip from Mike Johnson yesterday, where Mike Johnson, when he takes the speaker's gavel as the new Speaker of the House in Washington, D.C., says the number one thing, the first thing he's going to do is fund Israel. Number one thing.
That's right.
First thing. And he got voted in unanimously by the Republican Party. How do people not see it? That's what I want to know. I mean, when the information comes to you, do you go, it's kind of interesting. Now let's get a look at Mike Caruso. So this guy's name is, I think it's Chris Nelson.
Yeah, Chris Nelson.
Chris Nelson is the Jake Jackson of Florida. So Jake Jackson does interviews. He goes down to the Capitol. He's kind of a political junkie, young guy, speaking out against AI data centers, flock cameras. He goes to Jefferson City and gets interviews. Chris Nelson is a version of what Jake Jackson does in Florida. So I follow Chris. He caught up at a Republican. Listen to how this is set up, by the way. Listen to what he's talking about here. This is very interesting. This is Chris Nelson doing an interview with Mike Caruso, who was just arrested for child rape allegations, the same guy that was writing the anti-Semitic bills in the state of Florida, which Byron Donalds loves, by the way, just so you understand.
Oh, yeah.
Here is an interview with this guy. Now, when you're looking at him, you must recognize that he was just arrested for raping children. And he was in the Florida legislative body passing anti-Semitic laws, along with Randy Fine, who just got busted for peeking in somebody's mailbox, and Ron DeSantis, who went to Israel to solidify the anti-Semitism language that now governs the state of Florida and the state of Missouri and the state of Texas and 40 states around this nation. Check it out. This is clip number.
Hello, I'm here with Representative Mike Caruso from Palm Beach.
Yeah, wow.
Where exactly in Palm Beach is it? District 87. It runs from Manalapan all the way.
Look at those eyes. That is Satan right there.
Dead
eyes. That is, you can see. I always say, people tell me I'm crazy. I said, no. Crazy eyes. I can see it right away. Those eyes right there are EVIL. And I wonder how many people see it when they look into people's eyes. Did you have that gift when you were a kid, Isaiah?
Oh, yeah. I think I got it, from being a kid and just being around a lot of violence.
Same with me.
Then,
you hit it right on the head. I was around
it was
a
easy
lot of
for me.
violence. Yep.
You know, I did street evangelism, you know, in New York City and Chicago, LA, huge metropolitan areas. And so I could read people very quickly, you know.
Look at that
just by their body language and things like that.
Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Man, oh man. And for me, and I know people that don't see it, again, they think you're crazy. When I was a kid, the hair would stand up on my neck when I felt like somebody was no good. I could feel it right away. And I'm talking about 8, 9, 10 years old. I'm like, I got to get out of here. And something doesn't feel right. Let me get out of this situation. This is the guy right here. You're looking at his face that is writing anti-Semitism bills in the state of Florida that will put you in prison for littering. Okay, think about that. Put you in prison for littering if if you were to have a flyer and you drop it on the street and it's speaking out against Israeli interest, they would consider that a fine, an anti-Semitic fine, to imprison people for up to 5 years. This is the guy right here. Now, you think this guy ain't evil? Continue on with this. Again, it's called @Reopen Chris. This is a guy who does reporting on politics in the state of Florida. Continue on.
All right, awesome. And Representative Caruso, you have introduced a bill. We're here at the Republican Jewish Coalition's DeSantis and Ben Shapiro event. You have introduced a bill to fight anti-Semitism. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about that?
DeSantis and Shapiro.
DeSantis and Ben Shapiro. How many times have I told you Ben Shapiro? If you look at Ben Shapiro's eyes, you can see it. When you look into Ben Shapiro's eyes, don't you just see a weasel? Does anybody not see that? You just see there's no life and joy and kindness in those eyes. Ben Shapiro, when you look into his eyes, he looks like he's dead on the inside, because he is. And who's he hanging out with? The governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, and this guy right here who just got charged with child rape. And what are they doing? They're writing laws to protect Israel. That's what they're doing. And they're doing it all over the country. And people had better pay attention to it. I'm going to say it again because I'm going to start saying it often because I want people to start paying attention. Radical Zionism and radical Islam are on the same team. They work in tandem. That's why you'll start to see, and my buddies send me these clips all the time, you'll start to see what's going on in Dearborn, right? You have the Islamic mayor, Mamdani, in New York. And then they'll show like rallies where Muslims are walking the streets. Who controls the media? The Zionists. Who do they use to scare Christians? The Islamists. That's how they work the system. You have to be in fear. Then you have to pick one side or the other, because if you should ever decide that both of those teams are working together, then you would say, well, wait a minute. Why am I fighting my friends and family when I'm being manipulated by two sides that are on the same team who appear to be the enemy? And then I have to pick one of those sides. Continue on with this guy.
A little bit. Yes, it's HB 269. What it does is it makes acts of anti-Semitism a hate crime, and it's something that we were called to speak out. We were called to stand up for the 6 million Jews that were murdered by Hitler's Nazi regime in World War II. Today we're called to stand up and stand for the 672,000 Jews that live in our state of Florida. And, I won't sit still, I won't be complacent, I won't do nothing. If we do nothing about this acts of anti-Semitism that are all over, from projections on buildings of Nazi swastikas to destruction of Jewish cemeteries to handing out pamphlets with hate messages on them, if we do nothing, we're going to have 1933's Nazi Germany all over again. And so I've sponsored HB 269, and what it does is it makes acts of anti-Semitism when done in connection with another crime, such as littering or projection on the buildings or defacement through graffiti of cemeteries and all, makes it a third-degree felony punishable by 5 years in prison.
I agree with you on that it's about how bad that anti-Semitism is. Some people have concerns about First Amendment, though. That your bill talks about handing out flyers, and aren't messages, even if they are hateful, horrible, horrific messages, don't we in America have a right to print out our opinion and to hand out flyers?
Absolutely, we do. And the First Amendment concern was my number one concern, and we've gone through the bill with Constitution attorneys, and we have an amendment that we're proposing to the bill. But understand, handing out flyers with a hateful message is First Amendment right to everybody. It's when you just go through neighborhoods and discard them on the ground. Okay, that's a crime. That's a littering crime. Okay, and that won't be tolerated, especially if it involves a anti-Semitic message.
So he's saying that if you have literature that is anti-Semitic in his mind, whatever he defines as anti-Semitic, right? You could be speaking out against Israel. That could be anti-Semitic. You could call a Jewish person a bad name because you don't like that person. You don't even know that they're Jewish. That would be anti-Semitic. And if you drop that literature on the ground, now you could go to jail for 5 years. This is the argument that this guy is making.
Yeah.
Think about it for a second. That's in the free state of Florida with Ronnie DeSantis, who everybody loves.
I wonder if he's speaking of because there was a group that went around throwing flyers in people's yards. I wonder if that's what they were speaking on.
No idea. Wouldn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wouldn't matter. It'd be a littering crime. It wouldn't be
it would be a ticket, right?
A ticket, not a 5-year prison sentence.
Probably like $25 or
correct.
$150 maybe.
Did you see the video of Randy Fine?
Oh yeah.
Let's check that out real fast. So this is Randy Fine. Now he is my congressman down in Volusia County. We interviewed him when we were up in DC recently. He was very cordial to us, which I thought was kind of interesting. He seems like a relatively docile guy, but he also seems like a buffoon. Does he seem like a buffoon to you, Isaiah? Do you get that sense that he's kind of a buffoonish type character?
I think he's just a pawn, and he's okay with being a pawn,
Maybe.
And I think that's
seems,
more. I mean,
seems a bit buffoonish to me.
I mean, you don't see, he's not someone like Thomas Massey who's standing on the floor with a non-scripted speech speaking out about something that he actually cares about or believes in, right?
Right. Check him out. This is 16. This is Randy Fine. Now, if you or I were to go into somebody's mailbox and start rooting through their mail, we'd be in trouble. Randy Fine does it on video. You think Randy Fine will get in any trouble for this, Isaiah?
They already told him that he's not going to get in trouble. The police department.
No trouble for Randy.
None.
No trouble for Randy. But here's Randy Fine, who... There you go. We got our sound effects down. So Randy Fine, by the way, was caught on the floor voting for somebody who was not present. So he just went over and reached and voted for somebody.
Yeah, I think that was when he was in the Florida House.
That's right. He got busted doing that. Then he works himself into Congress, endorsed by Donald Trump again. That's why he won, because he was. We interviewed his competitor, right? He was endorsed by Donald Trump, and that's the end of it in Florida. Donald Trump is Lord in Florida.
Who I think that competitor may have won if crazy Dan Bilzerian didn't try to interject himself.
I know. But this is what happens. So he gets caught on video voting for somebody. You would think that would get somebody in trouble, but not Randy Fine. Randy Fine has a free get out of jail free card, and I wonder why that is. And now Randy Fine is caught rummaging through somebody's mailbox that they caught on a Ring camera. Here that is. Here's Randy Fine, congressman from Volusia County.
It's funny. The black SUV is driving him around. It's following him. You see that?
Yep.
I didn't catch that till just now. Got to make sure he's safe.
Look at him. I wonder what's in their mailbox. What's going on in here?
I originally was wondering, I was like, is he looking to see if they've got 6 mailers from him? Because he sends out so many.
What he's looking for.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's illegal.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you're not allowed to do that at all.
But Randy Fine. Laws are for the other people, Isaiah.
It's fine for fine.
You want to know who the laws are for? Here's who the laws are for. Let's go to clip number 13.
Let's do it.
This is who laws are for. This is Owen Schroyer from St. Louis, who should be on our show. I don't know what Owen's doing. He's communicating with me, but he will not commit to a time. Owen, for the love of God, brother, we're on the same team. I thought let's get it going. Let's start to grow this thing. Let's stop worrying about our profiles and start worrying about our country, right? So he says, Randy Fine has been caught on camera illegally voting for someone who was absent while he was a Florida House rep. And now he's been caught illegally going through someone's mailbox and he's never been charged. Why is he above the law? Imagine if a Democrat did that. I don't think Democrats have anything to do with anything. But again, this is where he's coming from.
I think he's more just saying, would you imagine how up in arms we would be as Republicans, per se, right? As a Republic, that's what he's saying. As Republicans, they would be up in arms because if a Democrat did it, oh my gosh, it'd be the end of the world.
Well, here's Owen.
Barack Obama did it, right?
Right. Clip number 2. Let's check out what Owen Schroyer had to say about his treatment on January 6th. Same thing. I remember the show that we did.
Oh yeah.
And No Justice for All.
Mm-hmm.
We did a show called And No Justice for All, because once you get caught up in the justice system and you're a political figure, have fun. Have fun. Either you're protected or you're not protected. Owen Schroyer was not protected on January the 6th. Listen to what he had to say about it. Clip number 2.
Now we've got you for January 6th. And then, again, something that has never been seen or heard of before, the local jurisdiction just passed it to the feds and said, oh, this is your case now. And so then the feds prosecuted me for January 6th. They had 3 charges. We ended up getting a misdemeanor trespassing charge. I forget the exact one. Misdemeanor. They put me in federal prison. Never heard of anybody with a misdemeanor in a federal prison before. Another first for me, put another feather in my cap. So that's how it all goes down. So I was there as a journalist, like many other people, including the people I was with. None of them got arrested. None of the other journalists got arrested. I guess maybe you would be the only other case of a journalist getting arrested, actually. Yeah. And they said, oh, well, since they had no reasonable cause to arrest me, I didn't touch a police officer, I didn't do anything. Their reasonable cause was you violated a probation. The probation was over and I didn't violate it. That's how they got me for January 6th. And then the crazy thing is, you get into these courtrooms, the whole thing is rigged. Yeah. It's actually one of the saddest experiences, because you realize you're in the courtroom, it's a triangle of power. You have the judge that wants to imprison you to fill the prisons. You have the prosecuting attorneys that want to convict you to keep their conviction rate high. And then there's you with no chance. Right. None. Yep. Not even a shot. Yep. And you just have to sit there and take it.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
That's the system we're up against. We're up against.
That's why it's an anomaly when we find an honest judge.
There's no such thing.
Exactly.
There's no, in my opinion, there's no such thing. Not when you're a political figure.
Well, I think I liked Frank Caprio.
I like him too. Yeah. But I don't know how much that is camera worthy and that kind of thing to make it look like.
Well, it was a TV show, Rob. So
well, I mean, to make it look like the system is just. You know what I mean? Again, I think some people can be pawns in a system and not recognize it. But nonetheless,
100%.
If you are a political figure, that's why I always didn't buy into the Donald Trump. They're trying to put him in prison. And people have to understand, at least from our perspective. I was saying this in real time. It wasn't as though I came to this decision after the fact and say, "Oh, look how smart I am." When Donald Trump was going through the situation with Letitia James in New York, with the invasion of Mar-a-Lago in Florida, and with that crazy woman in Georgia, and everybody said, they're going to put him in prison. They're going to put him in prison. I said, they're not going to put him in prison. There's zero chance that Donald Trump is going to prison. And I said this all along. How many people were listening back in those days that can vouch for me? Is there anybody in the that can remember me saying, he's not going to prison? That is never going to happen. What is going to happen is he's going to be a martyr, and he's going to unite the right, and they're going to vote for him. They're going to see him as somebody who's being destroyed by lawfare, which was a term that nobody had heard of prior to that. It was going to be lawfare, and they were going to put him in prison. I said, they're not putting Donald Trump in prison. It's not going to happen. I said at the entire time, I said, this is all a big movie to make Donald Trump the hero because he's so sharp and he's going to outmaneuver and he's going to outmaneuver the justice system. And then they got that picture of him. Thank you, Isaiah, very much. And I said, this is all theatrics. This is all showtime. This is all, where's my Warenberg?
And then Trump released this picture. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Yeah.
Right. So as we were watching it, I would do this. I would say, you have to understand that what you're watching, all of our media and all of our politics is theater. And when you see it as a movie, scripted theater that controls what you think and say and do, as Bernays wrote about 100+ years ago, how do a small group of people control the entire world? It is through narrative building and propaganda. What was the narrative at the time? Donald Trump was fighting the establishment. They were trying to assassinate him. And he keeps slipping through the noose because God is on his side. And if you want to be on the side of God, you should get on Donald Trump's side. That was the narrative coming out of the right at the time. Warenberg Theater. And that was my opinion at the time. I talked about it at the time. Catherine Austin Fitts talked about it at the time. She said Donald Trump will be the next president when Emerald Robinson and and Mike Lindell and all the people that were following politics at the time said they're stealing elections. They're stealing elections. Somebody said it to Catherine Austin Fitts, and she said, "What are you talking about? They're not. Donald Trump's going to be the next president." And somebody said, "Well, how do you know he's going to be the next president? They stole it in 2020." And she said, "Because the technocrats want him to be president.
Mm-hmm.
They're putting in a control system. This is a contrived system." This is what she said. And she said they want him to be president because they're going to be able to implement AI system and surveillance systems with Donald Trump as president, because the people that support Donald Trump will allow it because Donald Trump will tell them it's good, and whatever he says is good. They'll say, yes, you're right, Donald Trump, it's 5D chess, and whatever you say, no matter what. If the January 6 people have to go to prison, if we stick needles in people's arms and it kills them, if we start wars around the world that you said you weren't going to start, if we have to pay higher energy prices because we got to keep Iran from having a nuclear weapon, whatever you say is 5D chess, and quit asking questions about it, because trust is the game and we must trust Donald Trump. She said, Rob, that's all BS. It's theater. They want Donald Trump because if Barack Obama or Kamala Harris was putting in a control system with flock cameras and AI data centers and starting wars and leaving our borders open and running ICE around our country, the Republicans would revolt. The Republican voters, the conservatives, the people with the guns, they wouldn't like it. But now the people with the guns are going, well, Donald Trump's doing it, so everything's fine. Is that not true? Even if you think everything that I'm saying is all farce, is it true that everybody's allowing this to happen right before our very eyes? And would you allow it if Barack Obama, and I'm talking to my friends on the right, just think about it. If Barack Obama was the president of the United States right now, and the right was saying, Barack Obama's putting in a surveillance grid, look at all these flock cameras. If the Republicans were saying that, if Donald Trump was saying that, and Barack Obama was the president, they're putting these AI data centers in so they can track your information, so they can begin to implement digital currency. Would you freak out? Would you fight against it? You would. But when Donald Trump's the president, it's a small amount of people that still have their sanity left that are saying, wait a minute, I don't want to be surveilled 24/7. I don't want digital currency to rule the day. I don't want all of this to happen. I just want to be able to live my life with my family. I want to be left alone. I don't want to see my government. I don't want to hear my government. If I have a dispute with somebody, maybe we go to the courts and we have a fair representation. Outside of that, I don't even know that my government exists. But instead, they're in every ounce of your life, top to bottom to top, side to side, corner to corner. Every ounce of your life, our government has embedded themselves. It's depressing. Did I lose you, Isaiah? I did lose Isaiah. Can you guys hear me out there? JB? I'm going to continue on as though everybody can hear me, but Isaiah just went away. And I think I've got to read some advertisements. So why don't we do advertisements? We'll let him pop back on. Hopefully he didn't lose his stuff, because I got a guest coming on. And if we can't get her, I'm in big trouble, because I really rushed through all of that information to make sure that we could get to our next guest, who should be on Silicon Sally. If you don't know Silicon Sally, she is out there on social media, and she's talking about a lot of things that I find very interesting because I relate to them. She was in the marketing world. She interviewed with P. Diddy at one time. I think people can still hear me. Can't hear you. So can't hear you. I'm assuming everybody can. Make a long story short, I saw her videos and I said, well, this is somebody that's got a lot of the same life experiences as me. So I want to pay attention to what she has to say. I reached out to her, said, will you come on the show? And she should be getting an email. Let's see. His power went out. Okay, so now we got to figure out how to get her on. How do I want to do this? How do I want to get this done? Well, let me do advertisements, and then hopefully we can figure this out. First advertisement is People's Lobby Mo. I just found out yesterday that about 100 people that were trying to sign up for People's Lobby Mo went into my spam. So if you reached out to us, if you were trying to join People's Lobby Mo, I had no idea that it was going into spam. I never check it. And then suddenly I looked in there yesterday, and there was just pages and pages and pages of people that were trying to sign up, and I didn't see them. I apologize if you have not heard from me. PeoplesLobbyMo.com is my organization with many others in St. Louis, Missouri, that should be a template for states around the country. And what we want to do is we want to organize people to put pressure on government and organize us enough that we can have money to market our message. That's the biggest problem that everybody has when they're trying to get out a message. You have to fight through the algorithms on social media. You could never get onto corporate television. So therefore, you're stuck trying to get messages out by going door to door, having rallies where everybody's in the same room together. You can't do it in traditional fashion. So what I say to people that are listening to our show is sign up for peopleslobbymo.com, join our family. All we're looking to do is get enough money to get billboards, commercials, organize people around the counties in Missouri so that when we look up at each other, we'll recognize that we have enough power to challenge the lobby system, the big donor system in the state of Missouri, so that we have some power. Because ultimately we have the power. We just don't exercise it because we believe that it's just out of our control, but it's not out of our control. It's just a matter of organizing. And as I like to say, we have, just like the ants, we have to organize like ants to take on Goliath. And once we do that, everything will begin to change. We just have to take that one step. peopleslobbymo.com. peopleslobbymo.com. Sign up. We'd love a donation. If you can't donate, at least sign up. And we'll begin the process of solving our own problems without big government jamming their initiatives down our throat. Then we got Rack Custom Coatings. This is my friend Rich McQuay. Mitch McQuay does industrial space flooring, retail space flooring. It's epoxy. We show you the pictures, but I don't have access to it. A terrific business. Amanda, I'm coming to you in 2 seconds. I see Amanda came in. Industrial flooring, tremendous business. I like it for the garages. In fact, my buddy that died this morning, he's the one that put it in my garage, oddly enough. It's crazy how the world works, but he is the one that put the epoxy in my garage. I absolutely loved it. That person, Brian Parker, my buddy, passed away this morning. Rest in peace, my big man. Rack Custom Coatings. Don't want to bring everybody down. Rich McQuay is his name. If you have industrial space, retail space, anything that needs good, solid flooring, you can put designs in it. He does them for schools. He does them for everybody. You will not be disappointed. He's an artist with this stuff. Rich McQuay, locally owned and operated, family owned since 2001. If you want to reach out to him, it's Rack, R-A-K, customcoatings.com, 636-398-5040, 636-398-5040. Let me get one more in, and then we'll bring in our guest, Carrington Financial. You saw Rick Babich yesterday. He comes on every Tuesday at 11. I don't know if you get anybody better to solve your financial issues. If you're nearing retirement, if you have money to grow or protect, it's always Carrington Financial. Your caringadvisor.com. Biblical principles with your money. And like I say, he's kind of a genius type operator. So when you get him on the phone and you have questions about your finances, how you want to guide the path of your money, you should always get a second, third, fourth, or fifth opinion. I don't care how many opinions you get, just get the opinion of my man, Rick Babich. You can reach him at 314-671-0525. 314-671-0525. Your caringadvisor.com. All right, let me see if I can bring in my guest. All right, Amanda, let me see if I can figure this out. Let's do it this way. Maybe this way. There we go. How are you?
I'm sorry to hear about your friend.
A crazy day. I wake up. That's the first thing I looked at this morning. I get on my phone and, you know, I'm a little bit older than you, I think. And he's been a childhood friend since we were 11, 12 years old.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah. And then I'm thinking, I got to do this show because I wanted to talk to you. I had a show prepared and I said, you know what? I'm going to suffer through. You know, I'll grieve later. I got to get through a show, and that's what we're doing. So I've been paying attention to you on social media. In fact, you know what's funny? You put a couple of social media clips out there, and I was watching them, and I thought we have a lot in common. You were in the advertising world. I was in the corporate world in the shoe business.
Okay.
You lived out in L.A. I worked in L.A. I worked out of Manhattan Beach for several years. I worked in San Diego for years. Then I worked in East L.A. So I know California very well. I know the temperament out there.
Mm-hmm.
A strange place to say the least. And so you have that experience. You mentioned Bernays. You said you should read Bernays. I said, I tell my audience every day, you got to pay attention to Bernays.
Nice.
Yes. In order to understand what's going on in our country, you got to go back to the founding of propaganda and advertising. If you're an advertiser, you obviously know Bernays, because Bernays taught us how to link emotion to a product and skip past the logic.
Yep.
And you see that all over the place in advertising, right? I mean, you see how people do it. And I thought, I want to get her on the show. And I want to start with this question. Again, it goes by, Silicon Sally, but how do people find you?
Silicon Sally is on Facebook mainly. That's probably the biggest, and Instagram. The Instagram is linked to my personal, either or. They basically like cross post the same things. There is a YouTube. It's pretty small. I started it way later. I have a Patreon, and then there's 2 websites, siliconsally.com, which is sort of the main journalism hub, and then shopsiliconsally.com, which is apparel to raise awareness. This whole project has evolved greatly from where it started and the genesis of what it was supposed to be until I learned a lot more information that I didn't necessarily sign up for. So yeah, we started as a nice little store, raising awareness. And then it got wild. So there's a blog post in there, and I'm sure we'll get into some of the other pieces, but the meat and potatoes is the Jeffrey Epstein AI library, which is on that site.
I have so many questions for you.
I have so many answers.
We're going to have a good time because when I was listening to you, I thought, well, this is a female version of me. We come from the same background. We have the same background. We have the same understanding of media. We have the same understanding of Bernays. You were saying this when you were in California. I worked out in California for a long time. You're a journalist. I'm a journalist. I went to school for journalism for a little bit, got out of it because there's no money in it, but you probably found out at some point there's not much money in journalism. There's not much money in finding the truth anymore. It's more sources. Right, the more nonsense you can sell to people, the easier it is to get an audience. But if you want to tell them the truth, sometimes the truth people don't want to hear. I think you found that out, right? You tell them the truth and they go, well, I don't want to hear that, Rob. I love Donald Trump and I've been loving Donald Trump forever. So if you're going to say something negative about Donald Trump, I just won't listen to you anymore. Same thing with Obama, right? You have the people that loved Obama, the political scenes. And once you get tribal with your thinking and you only look through things through a narrow lens, then you're outside of the bounds of journalism. Journalism says, I may love Donald Trump with all my heart, but I still got to cover the man. He's still the president of the United States. If he says one thing and does another, I got to see it.
Yeah.
And that's where I come from. So I imagine you're probably on that same page.
Well, yeah, I think my evolution was similar, a little different. California was a while ago for me. I'm actually in Nashville now. So I
love Nashville, by the way. Love it.
Same. Thank you. I act like I own the city. It's mine. I love it. Nashville's changed a lot too in the last 8 years I've been here, but I've done 3 iterations of California. I've had 3 very different experiences because they were at 3 completely different points in LA's history. I started actually in PR. I was in music PR. And I don't know how much of this you know or don't know, but I think
Can we play a clip before you go too deep?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, we're going to be playing time with you. I want to play this clip really fast. It's clip number 7. Isaiah's back with us, I think. Isaiah, if you can get clip number 7. This is the one that I loved. I saw this clip and I thought, you know what? I've got to get her on the show because I just is he on there? Isaiah, you there? There it is. He's got you coming up. He's got himself on. So let's watch this clip and then I'll get your commentary on it.
Okay, hi, I'm Amanda. This is the briefest synopsis of who I am and why I did this channel. So, right after college, I moved to LA. This was the early 2000s when it was a very, very different place. I started my career in music PR, and I saw some things because Hollywood and because music. And eventually I wound up leaving LA because LA was starting to get really, really screwy, and so was the music business. I moved home in 2008, and in 2008 went 6 interviews deep to be Diddy's personal assistant. This is a true story. I interviewed at Bad Boy in New York, 6 interviews deep until the questioning got so uncomfortable, I wound up backing out of the interview process. I was one of 2 people to finally make it through that interview process, and you guys can figure out, I'm guessing, who got the job, because it wasn't me. Thank God. I eventually moved into journalism, which I found to be absolutely corrupt, and for years worked for a paper chain that I saw some things. I was working around the Hudson County, New Jersey area. If you guys know New Jersey or Hudson County, it's a pretty politically corrupt place, but I also worked through Hurricane Sandy. So I saw a lot of nationally politically fucked up things. I saw my words change on the cutting room floor to benefit the people that were spending the money. And I left journalism because I said journalism isn't real. And then I went down my rabbit hole of finding out that all of media isn't real and looked into Edward Bernays and all these things, which if you haven't, you should. I moved into advertising because I thought that that was safe and that that was a career that wasn't corrupt and crooked. I don't know why. And I found that to be worse because we were all ushered into ad tech and digital advertising, not something any of us asked for. I mean, I was in the real Madison Ave world of advertising, but guess what? I saw some more things. And then AI hit. And when AI hit, it took the careers of most of my peers. I was on the writing side of the business, obviously. And I saw a lot of writers commit suicide after ChatGPT launched in 2022. I did a piece with the Wall Street Journal. I have been very, very adamant about anti-AI for a long time and studying the dark underbelly of it. And this was since 2022. So I really didn't even know the political affiliations to it because they didn't exist yet. By 2024, I found that the man at the helm of AI is a man that raped me when I lived in LA back in 2004. And I decided to go into the Epstein files and put his name in, and I uncovered a bunch of things that draw all of this together, from journalism to Epstein to AI to big tech. And everything just made sense. And I decided, fuck this, fuck corporate, fuck my field. I'm going to expose everything.
Okay, so you got my interest. That was really good, by the way. I don't know how. Do you
That's
have to do
pretty
that?
much it.
I was gonna say, do you stay? Are you in front of the camera and you have to go through it 5 or 6 times to get it out the way you want to, or is that a one-time shot?
That was a one-time shot.
Very impressive. I always struggle with that when I have something that really important to say. And there's like 6 or 7 topics that I want to get into. I tell Isaiah all the time. I said I find myself doing these 15 or 20 times because I want to nail it, and I never nail it. And I think it looked very natural for me. I end up looking like a
Robb's a perfectionist.
I am a
Well,
perfectionist.
so am I. I'm a very ADHD and OCD combo.
Terrible.
That is the amazing combo of God's given grace. But in that video, that was a one shot. And a lot of things with receipts or where I can't really stay linear, and I can't just kind of flow. I'm typically like 100 take, like all choppy, trying to edit it. But and the funny thing is, that's the video that went viral. That's probably going to be my first to like hit 1 million, right? And I think a lot of it was because it not only brought in politics and Epstein, but it brought in Hollywood and Diddy, and it had like a mixed bag of people's interest. But that was the one that I was like just pissed off in my car one day, and I'm like, ugh, this is why I'm exposing corruption. Thinking like no one's going to see this. I'm just so like, aggravated. And of course, that's the video that, the one I did probably the least work on.
Well, I'll tell you what's funny about it is 2 or 3 people sent that to me. So
Really?
people in my circle sent that to me, and I said, wow, it's funny. I got this from a couple, maybe it might have been 2 people for
No
some reason.
way.
3,
Yeah.
but 2 or 3 people sent it to me, and they said, "Have you seen this girl?" And I said, "No." So I'm watching it, and I thought, well, no wonder they sent it to me. You're talking about the things that I talk about all of the time. So let me just start from the very beginning.
Sure.
You said that you went through an interview process for
Mhm.
Bad Boy Records, which is P. Diddy's organization at the time. Tell
Mhm.
me about the process and what you recognized out there. I worked for Skechers out in LA.
I know a lot
Skechers.
about the shoe business too, believe it or
Do you
not.
really?
I just left it. I was in it for the last 2.5 years.
You're kidding me.
No, I just left Hey Dude and Crocs in April.
Are you kidding me?
I was their global director of copying for the last 2.5 years.
Well, we know some of the same people then. When I get you off the air,
You probably do.
well, Hey Dude is mammoth now, and I remember when they first started, I hired a guy that was working just very quickly off the side. I was working for a guy that was at Hey Dude. Now, you remember Hey Dude got really popular, and they couldn't fill their orders. They were all over the place. The guy he's like, I can't make any money because I could sell these shoes, but we can't get them fast enough. This company's such a mess. I hired him to come work with me. Now he's probably thinking, oh my God, that was the biggest mistake I've ever made because Hey Dude is crazy.
No, Hey Dude is it's unique. It's unique. It's grown very fast, and that's not always the easiest thing to deal with. But
the guy that started Crocs, I was working for a company called Phoenix Footwear out in San Diego. The guy that originally started with Crocs showed up at our office one day and tried to buy the company for us for $2 million. We were struggling at the time. And he wanted to buy the business for $2 million. And the guy that was the CEO at the time said, no, I'm not looking to sell. So we have a connect. I've been in the shoe business since I was 15 years old.
I'm gonna zip my lip on the shoe business just because
it's changed. It used to be great.
I'm supposed to be quiet on this. But yeah, there's a history. In any case,
all right, you got to tell me P. Diddy. We'll get back to the shoe business.
Diddy, yeah. So and forgive me because I'm getting up there in age, and this was about 17 years ago, so I don't remember everything, but this is basically where the memory lies. The interview was not for Bad Boy. It was actually for Diddy personally, for a personal assistant. And I'm not even terribly sure how I found it at the time, because I don't remember how we found jobs at the time, but I have been in the music business already for years, so I had connections. I just moved back to New York from LA the first time, and I wind up in this process that was, I would say, probably like multiple phone, multiple in person, and the in persons were at Bad Boy's office. They were with women. So I don't even want to make this sound like it was like this, like, you know, shady boys club at Bad Boy. It wasn't. My interviews were definitely with women. And they started out semi-normal, you know, over the phone. Hey, blah, whatever. We like your resume. You work for so-and-so. I had some pretty good ties on my resume at that time in music. And then they brought me in. And again, like the first few were pretty normal. It started taking an odd turn where I was asked, I'll tell you the two questions I remember very specifically. The first one was, if, you know, we just want to like basically see how loyal you are, because he can be demanding. If he asks you for a coffee or, I don't know, donut or bagel or something, and you're in Manhattan, but he needs you to walk across the Brooklyn Bridge, like no matter the weather, no matter what, not drive, walk across the Brooklyn Bridge to retrieve it. Are you willing to do that? And I was like, what? Why would I walk across the Brooklyn Bridge? Like, it was just kind of odd. So I was like, that feels like a very, very strange test of loyalty and just kind of icky. Like, it wasn't like, you know, super creepazoid, but it was like a little bit icky. Then they asked me, are you willing to keep a phone on at all times in your shower while you shower?
Really?
Yep.
Well, that was then they're saying this to get a hold of you, right? This is how we would get a hold of you.
Yeah, they were like, we just, you know, it's so demanding and we need to make sure you're on call at all times. We just need to know there is a live phone, probably, I would assume, provided by them, which I don't trust any of that. And I certainly don't trust it now. But you know, our phone in your shower whenever you shower. And I was like, absolutely not.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm at this time, I'm probably like 27, like something like that, where, you know, I know enough. I had been in Hollywood the last 4 years prior, leading up to that. And I grew up in the New York area and had worked in and out of New York almost my whole life. And I knew enough to be like, like, this doesn't feel right. But at the same time, I already knew the music business was corrupt. I knew it was screwy. I knew people were weird. So I was just like, I don't know, like, I don't want to blow this opportunity. And my main thing was like, maybe it's just a little too psychotically demanding. Then 10, 15 years goes by and you hear about everything.
Right.
And you go, and I had 1 million people call me at that point, every like friend and ex-boyfriend I ever had. And they were like, this could have been you. Like, this was the role you were up for. Like, this could have been you in these predicaments and in, you know, put in these situations. And I'm like, you know, my heart sunk. I was like, that's how close that got. And now I understand the test of loyalty and the little, like, you know,
because they're doing some nasty things. They want to make sure.
Doing some nasty things, and I think both. Like, again, I'm a messaging expert. That is where my shtick lies. It's really not journalism. I was in journalism. I walked away a long time ago on purpose, but I've been in messaging for, you know, 20 some odd years, and to me, those are very vague ways of saying how much privacy will you upend for us, and how much like lunacy will you not question? Because walking across the Brooklyn Bridge is absolutely insane. And then, by the way, in that time, in that 15-year span of time before he was, you know, indicted or whatever happened, there was some people that had come out saying similar things, that they had interviewed for him or worked for him, and they had been asked, will you walk to Brooklyn for me? Will you retrieve a pastry, you know, 27 miles away by foot for me? Like, weird stuff that I was like, yep. So that's like their shtick. That's their MO.
Isaiah asked me that question.
He said yes.
I did say yes. We walked from East St. Louis all the way to Chesterfield.
You got to do what you got to do, I guess, especially now. Economy's different.
What was interesting about Isaiah's question that I thought was interesting, he said, I want you to walk from East St. Louis all the way to Chesterfield. He said, and I want my coffee to be hot when you get there. Can you make sure that happens? I said, of course, I can do anything.
Stop the microwave somewhere.
This is a very demanding young man. Okay, I got to ask this. Okay, journalism, you said you walked away because you saw corruption in it. I recognize this too. I tell everybody I was in radio for a while. The reason I left radio was not necessarily that it was corrupt, but I understood the business of media now, right? The business is, if I'm hurting advertising dollars, then I'm not useful to them. And I say to everybody, I said, that's not necessarily an indictment on the people that I was working with. It just happens to be a fact. I get a lot of listeners to pay attention to me, but at the same time, I'm offending a lot of the people that are paying the bills.
Yeah.
How do you get in the middle of that? You must have went through the exact same experience.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting if you look at the trajectory, and honestly, this is what a lot of this comes down to for me, because I recognize manipulation really well. It's another thing I have an expertise in. I have a book out on all this stuff, but and messaging manipulation, which all leads back to Brené's, and also what I did for a living was very careful to toe the line of not, walking people into addiction or all these like crazy things. There's a lot of products I chose not to work for. So for journalism, I can park that and say like that was like overt. It was pretty overt corruption and things that were just wonky, like my words changing or stories changing. But if you look at the trajectory of just where we were, I got in the business in 2004 in LA, and the music business, and we were so hyper vigilant about pay to play and about payola and about, a lot of, and I understand it still went on. Believe me, I'm sure being in radio, you're going to tell me it still went on. It still went on. But then piracy and Spotify and, well, at the time it was like LimeWire was first, right? Napster, LimeWire. Everybody was so like, at least still talking about doing the right thing and like this is wrong. And we've outed some situations where people were paid backroom deals to get a song at #1 or whatever the case may be. And then all of a sudden that slowly eroded. You saw that slowly erode, where not that it went on any more or any less, but people weren't rising those stories up and bringing justice to it. It was just really being swept under the rug. Then piracy started being really swept under the rug. Now AI is just like, hey, blatant piracy for all. Who gives a shit? And it's like, how did we get? And I know how we got here. That's how incremental conditioning works. That's exactly what it's been this whole time. Is like that, that really slow conditioning of like, you're okay with this.
That's right.
We're gonna move the goalpost a little bit. You're okay with this, and that's all I'm seeing across everything at this point.
Yeah, you're moving into a system that will enslave you ultimately. It happens drip by drip. You get to
100%.
If you're a journalist, you see it. You're paying attention to the news stories every day, so you get to see it, and you're forming thoughts and opinions on it, right? So you pay attention to it every day, and then at some point you go, well, this is obvious what is happening. Why can't the rest of the world see it? And I always say to people, the rest of the world doesn't see it because they're trying to keep their lights on. They're trying to feed.
Exactly. No, they see it. I mean,
they see it, but they're not reactionary to it.
I can't say all of them see it. I think there's a lot, there's a lot of people with their lights out right now in their freaking heads. But I do agree with you. I think there's a very unique, and this is why, listen, my whole platform pretty much goes back to AI more than it does the blanket corruption. So I had to pick a lane. There's too many like corrupt lanes. So I had to pick a lane. This is my lane that I'm very passionate about. I think there was a very perfect storm going into, the planning, the Epstein, the big tech and all this, but there was a very perfect planning to do what's happening now and handcuff people on all ends, where even to your point, if they know and they want to speak up, everyone's mindset right now is this may be the last job I'm ever going to have.
Yeah, you're stuck.
Yeah, and that's a perfect storm, right? Because we're not in a position in the past where it's like, you say this and you might screw up this job. You might get fired. You might even not be welcome back in like this sector. No, now everybody's fear is I may never work again. And I'm going to be very honest with you. That's exactly where I know this, because that's exactly where I was February, March of this year. I was like, the second I come forward, I'm kissing goodbye, potentially ever having a job again.
Right.
But I just had to do it.
And then you have to go out on your own.
Yeah. And I mean, it's tough because obviously that's, to your point, there's not a lot of money in telling the truth. And those are things that I hadn't necessarily, I strategized a lot of this, but I hadn't strategized the piece where I will be so shadow banned by a lot of these platforms that I need to make the money off of.
Right.
Or, I'm telling the truth, so I'm going to be suppressed. And also corporations that should be aligning with me, corporations that are openly pro-female or, women owned, or just whatever, even just anti-administration, anti-AI, none of them can align to this fully yet. They have in the UK. I've noticed they have in London. They have, I mean, in England. They have in Scotland. I've spoken with people internationally. Their ad campaigns are coming out bold and brazen and like going against big tech and all the oligarchy and all this stuff. But here, we are petrified in this country, and that's not good.
No, it's bad. It's once we ripe for the picking. We talk. You didn't hear the early part of the show, did you?
Mm-mm.
That's what we were talking about. I mean, you're
really?
you're talking about the things that we were talking about earlier. I said, people, they're distracted. Number one, they're busy. Number two, but they're also worried. They're anxious all the time. They got to feed their families. They got, they if they lose this paycheck, that's the end of it. That's really what happened with me in the shoe business. I had a job offer right before I left. So COVID destroyed my career basically because I had thrown all my chips into a particular business. It was out of LA, and it was a billionaire out there. And he said, Rob, we're going to split profits. We turn this business over to you. You've got plenty of time. Relax. You're part of the family. We're just going to build this together. And COVID, right when we shipped all of our shoes, this is a small company, but we were shipping shoes into the marketplace. And it took me 2 years to do all. And I had connections from Skechers and Clarks and Cole Haan. I had, but Spotify was in Cole Haan's. That was our neighbor.
Okay.
So when I worked in Manhattan, when I came up the elevator, I was coming up with Spotify people because Spotify was the corporate office right next to ours.
Yeah.
Make a long story short, that destroyed my career. And I had a job offer to go work with these guys in Southern Florida at one point. And I talked to my wife and I said, I don't know that I want to be in this world anymore. I don't know that I want to be in the corporate environment anymore. And she said, well, you've got the podcast that's doing really well. Can you make a living doing that? And I said, well, we had some money in the bank. And I said, why don't we take the money? And she did actually. She said, why don't we take the money in the bank, give yourself a little runway.
Oh, I love that. That's such a good partnership.
I look back on it. I'm fascinated by it because, when I met my wife, I was making a lot of money. And now all of a sudden I'm making no money. And she's saying, you know what, we'll go through our savings to get
That's
us
what
through.
partnership is, though. That's, I mean, kudos to her. Like,
she's amazing. She's just amazing. She was the breadwinner for 6 months. I couldn't believe it. Coming from my background, I thought, this is crazy. My wife is paying the bills and I'm trying to get this business off the ground.
And that's okay. That's what partnership is.
Amanda, I had to go out on my own. I mean, even in radio, you couldn't make enough money to even pay our bills. So I had to go out on my own in order to do it. And I have just aligned myself because you're talking about the platforms. And that's where Isaiah's coming from too. He's like, Rob, it'd be great if the advertisers that came with us when we started this venture, eventually we could just advertise with them for free because we're making enough money off the platforms. But the algorithms, for me at least, and this is what I'm recognizing, very difficult to get traction on these algorithms for a show talking about the things we're talking about.
Oh, and I have all the reasons why in receipts, all of them.
Tell me a little bit about that, because when you said AI, I don't understand it that well. I feel it, I see it around me, but I don't really understand.
Oh dear. Well, this is your meat and potatoes, and it's dark and it's a lot. So let me just think of how to word things so I don't get your show in trouble. So basically what happened, as you saw from my video, is I had put somebody's name into the Epstein files, night one of them coming out. This is a man super connected to AI that I knew personally, obviously in a very negative way. This is like big tech, big Silicon Valley, big billionaire, and the PayPal mafia, which, I mean, you have to know
all the time.
These people, right? So Musk, Thiel, David Sachs. David Sachs was appointed to AI czar. I sort of questioned that appointment. There was a lot of things happening, and I had already been in the anti-AI game since 2022 because I just saw my field going to shit. I saw ChatGPT came out, writers were the first to go, and I just saw so many writers getting laid off. I saw some commit suicide. It was so bad that I had already been 2 years rallying. So when I see the political alignment, I started having some questions, especially knowing some of these people personally. I go in the files, and night one, I find Epstein's connections to AI and seed funding Palantir. And I call my mother at like 1 a.m, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, you know what I mean? I was like, this is so crazy. Because I knew these people personally. And I'm like, this is dark. I know this is dark. I know I'm about to tread into something very, very, very dark. I dug. I found 802 emails with Epstein's connections to AI, funding AI, launching AI 10, 12, 15 years ago. And I'm like, this is getting shadier and shadier. And at first that was kind of like the whole thing. Like I was like, wait a minute, why was all of this happening 20 years ago with all his money, his launching, and not just his money and his launching, but like mathematical contributions he had provided, like literal physics models he was giving to build some of these models with the top physicists in the world that created AI, right? And so this is where it gets extremely interesting, is that AI, which is basically just machine learning, is something that was thought about, hypothesized about in the 40s, like around mid 40s. Some people are going to tell you it's 30s, a little earlier, whatever. And it was a bunch of, physicists and scientists that said we can have machines smarter than people. We could create these like infinite possibilities where basically the machine thinks for itself and you put in whatever you put in and they go and they do the thing, this like limitless machine learning. You have a guy at the helm called Alan Turing. Alan Turing came up with the Turing test to basically say, is a machine smarter than a human, or is a human smarter than a machine? Anyways, fast forward, you have years that go on in this space, in science labs, in AI labs, in intelligence labs that predate all our tech people. Like a lot of people look at this and go, oh, this is just, Sam Altman and whoever, right? Dario. And but it really wasn't. There was decades where it was just scientists at the top Ivy League schools building and creating and figuring out how this could work, right? I mean, you got to think scientists created computers. Like this wasn't tech people that created computers. So this all goes on at places like MIT and Harvard. They all get in bed with Epstein. Epstein is passed off as this freaking Brooklyn financier, idiot math teacher, when that is 100% not the role that he played. And, he's having daily conversations with all the top physicists in the world to bring AI to market 10, 15 years ago. So I see this and I'm like, this ain't good. And it just unraveled from there. Like emails about our job loss, how we'll handle it 10 years ago. We'll be angry. We might revolt, but robots don't take holidays. So they're just collateral damage at this stage. It actually says that, 2017. Yeah. He was caught at an AI conference. The FBI tip line that came in that eventually got him fully caught was at an AI conference. No press told us that.
You talking about Epstein?
Epstein.
That's right. Well, there was a lady that was a Florida investigator that I don't know if I ever played that on the show because I didn't know it was verified, but that I remember hearing the phone call. She made the phone call and that was released to the public.
Oh, really? Yeah. I saw
woman, right? It was a woman that made a phone call from a conference, and she said, I remember.
Was it Arizona?
I can't remember.
Well, so I saw the transcript because it's just in the files that like basically comes from the FBI recapping it, being like, we were told he was at a pizza party with Noam Chomsky at this Arizona University AI conference, and he had 2 young girls with him, students only pizza party, blah, 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 whatever. And anyways, I see that's an AI conference. I track it back. I look at the attendees. I see OpenAI on that. I'm like, this is a much bigger story that we were never told in the public. Like that means a lot to people to find out that this guy was caught at an AI conference. We didn't even know AI was happening or baking 15 some odd years ago, right? Then you see he left a chunk of his estate to AI, to an unnamed US AI business through Bill Gates' science advisor. And so anyways, I keep peeling back all these parts going, this is just getting worse, right? Like what is happening? So I build, because I had come out at the time, I had just launched Sally. I had come out at the time I build, or I start telling people like, hey guys, there's freaking Epstein funding behind all this AI that I already thought was evil, blah, blah, blah. My whole, knowledge of big tech and some of this. And I had so many people come at me every day and be like, that's not true. That never happened. He never funded AI. He had nothing to do with AI. AI is from the 40s, blah, blah. And they just couldn't wrap their head around it. So I built my library. And this is where everything really took a turn, is I built a library of receipts, just public domain, directly linking to the Department of Justice emails, right to their site, right into the PDF. But I would actually like name it and index it as opposed to what they did, just throw 3 million files at people piecemeal.
Organize it.
Yeah, actually did some organization and threw out a bunch of nothing burgers. I took 800 emails, put it down to 200 email, 233 to be exact. That's it. I didn't go in my speculative opinion or anything. I mean, there's a little preface to it of my blog roundup. But the rest these are direct. You click any of them, it's going to tell you what's on the outside. It's going to tell you what's on the inside, right? Click yes, you're in. That's it. And you could go through that for, 233 links. Marvin Minsky is literally the founding father of AI and the co-founder of the AI lab at MIT, working with him every day until his death.
Epstein's working with the founder of AI up until his death.
Yes.
And finance, that's the other thing, because, when I talk about Epstein, what I pay attention to is everybody wants to talk about the child trafficking and then this and that and the other.
Well, there's a reason for that.
Well, that's the smoke and mirrors. I think it happened.
100%.
But they're really trying to protect you from the information. The alignment, what I think was the alignment was with the bankers and IT. I think those two entities.
I think it's bigger than that. I actually
what do you think it is?
I've narrowed this down to well, hold on, because there's a nice linear segue into this.
All right.
So I don't want to go off the path too far because my brain's ADHD too. And that stuff gets really down the hole. But yeah, so anyways, I see all that. I'm like, why is he working with all these quantum scientists? Now, it's important to note that what I started finding weird at this point is I'm pitching this library to media, big media, and I was press at one point. And I was PR at one point. So I know how it works. I built my own press releases. I have the library. I'm talking to these people and they're all very averse to it. Like, oh, no, we know Epstein had a peripheral interest in AI, but we're not going to cover that story. I think it's been largely covered. I was like, been largely covered? Where? Literally no one knows. Everyone's fighting with me every single day. What are you talking about? These are the biggest publications. So I said, something's up. Now, because they did that, because they literally, were so hands off to it, I said, now I'm going to keep digging. I keep digging. I have this library. Now I start kind of piecing it all together. And I look at the press that was put out, that was actually told. And there was a lot in 2019 when he allegedly passed away. There was so much press from the New York Times all the way down talking about his relationships with scientists. Why was he involved with all these quantum physicists? Why was he involved with tech, Silicon Valley? What was going on? But AI drops 2022, just 3 years later, they never come back and touch it again. And it seems pretty freaking obvious. They will never come back and tell you this again. So I said, all right, something's really screwed up. And I go deeper. I go deeper into his relationships with the quantum physicists. And in a very weird organic trajectory of things, a bunch of scientists go missing. I figure out those links, those missing scientists. A few of them were from Los Alamos National Lab. Zorro Ranch was right near Los Alamos National Lab. They found a common thread between the contractor for both Zorro Ranch and Los Alamos National Lab. He was a guy who worked for Robert Maxwell. And it was a alleged nuclear spy site for Israel. And this gets really bad. So then I go down, at this point, I'm receiving a lot of information because I'm starting to get traction. So I'm getting things from professionals all over the place. I'm getting things from tech. I'm getting things from people in science. I'm getting things from people in academia. And so, some of it I have to weed out and be like, I don't know if you are legit or whatever. But when I start seeing a lot of things match from strangers where they're saying the exact same things, I'm like, this now needs exploration. And some of it did have to do with funding and weird funding stuff. I mean, you think normal bank stuff. We're not talking normal bank stuff. We're talking like using quantum AI to actually wrap funds and bank accounts so that it never hits ledgers or congressional oversight. Yeah. And most of it is around weaponry. So as I go further, I figure out almost every scientist that went missing did have weaponry ties, or at least nuclear research ties. I go in, I put Los Alamos National Lab into the files, and I find emails from him just casually talking about, warfare, Oppenheimer. He's literally dismissing the head fellow at Los Alamos National Lab. He's dismissing him why do you keep talking to me about education? Oppenheimer wasn't interested in education. He just built things. We don't need Los Alamos to educate the people. We just need to build the things. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And it just kept getting worse. informants that I figured out were informants because I cross-tracked them to the CIA files. People that were talking about Iran, talking about Los Alamos National Lab. It all seemed to go back to this one place, and just New Mexico and the scientists and the weird things that New Mexico is capable of. Theoretically, a lot of these like quantum physicists, they were all obsessed with like, what is reality, or like these like theories of the universe, or what is consciousness. They all matched all of Epstein's interests to a T. And I take quantum science, quantum computing, there's a reason behind that too, but we don't have to get into it. I take that, I match it to the CIA files, and there's a whole branch of the CIA formed in the 1980s called the Office of Science and Weapons Research. I look at their stuff, every single thing they were ever interested in or talking about. And mind you, because they only declassify every like 25 years, these are older, these are up to the 90s. They haven't like declassified much recently, but I match all that up, and it's everything he was talking about. Every single thing that he is interested in or is talking about or is emailing quantum physicists on is every single thing that mirrors carbon copy to this branch of intelligence. And I'm like, okay, pretty sure we have that figured out. And that, to me, is the AI Trojan horse. Other than, and I have another side to this with big tech, they don't like me very much. They're not going to, it's just going to get worse. But I think a lot of this revolves around war. We'll just keep it at that, war and weapons, weapon development. But then I also find Epstein is connected to CERN. And,
Really?
Yep, he put a press release out rallying for CERN's continued education on the Large Hadron Collider. Epstein had sites, Jeffrey Epstein Science, Jeffrey Epstein AI, full websites, it goes so deep. You got to watch more of my videos. It's so creepy. And, CERN is a nuclear research center in Geneva or near Geneva. So then you start going into that and you're like, all right, well, they're doing weird shit at CERN. I think a lot of it has been exacerbated. I think a lot of like actual conspiracy theorists have been like, oh, they're shutting it off and we jumped into another quantum timeline. I don't think that that's what's happening. I don't know anymore. But I did watch some legitimate videos from CERN on the Large Hadron Collider. I do have a pretty good understanding of it now. This is what has happened in the 6 months as I now am a scientist. I don't know. I learn about this weird shit every single day that I never asked for. But their study of atoms and these like hadrons and the quark. The quark is a particle, a building block particle discovered by a guy named Murray Gell-Mann. Murray Gell-Mann was working with Epstein every day. Come on. Like, what is anyone even talking about? They're all tied to him. So a lot of that uses nuclear fusion, one of the two. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. To study reality and study these particles and study like atomic matter and these like bizarre things to understand reality. So now I'm like, okay, maybe it wasn't all just about weapons. Maybe it was about these like odd intelligence theories on our reality. And, that's what quantum science is. It's a super existential, kind of woo-woo world. I don't know anymore. It's hard to tell anymore because I think, they've become pretty convinced on theories, I think, that counter the Big Bang Theory and all this stuff. I think they're just trying to really explore that research. He was behind that research. And you got to ask yourself why. So that's one leg. And then I'll keep this one shorter. Sorry.
All right.
But the entire, what?
It's fascinating. I mean, because I study this, obviously not to the detail you have. I can't wait to look through more of your stuff. But, like you were talking about, because we played it on our show, when the Epstein tapes and all that stuff was released, you have an audio tape with Jeffrey Epstein and the former prime minister of Israel, Ehud Barak, who was visiting Epstein all the time, talking about how Peter Thiel will give him a job. And I said, well, how are people not making this connection? That's kind of crazy. Peter Thiel,
it's all over it.
I know, but Peter Thiel's funding Donald Trump and JD Vance, and JD Vance just put out a statement about AI data centers and how important they are to the future. I'm like, so wait a minute, Peter Thiel,
it goes
Palantir,
Yep.
was developed through our own CIA, is working with Ehud Barak and Jeffrey Epstein, and they're putting all the system into place, and nobody in America can go, wait a minute, A, B, C, 2 plus
No, they
2.
really can't. And
Crazy.
I think, well, I think we're starting to.
I hope.
I'm going to be honest with you. My channel is growing by 1,000 people a day on Facebook, which is crazy.
Love it.
So I think people's eyes are open. The big tech is part of it is one piece. And I kind of, at this point, put Peter Thiel and Palantir into big tech. But he's not, but he is. But the Epstein piece of it, and it's all so convoluted and complicated, and there's so many parts that I think this is also why people aren't doing it, because there's no solid timeline. There's nothing putting everything into like, something linear for people to understand. And I do think they made a mess of things. And I want to say this very clearly. I've said it in other podcasts, as somebody who was essayed by somebody in this administration and in the Epstein files. I have spoken to other victims, essay victims of Epstein himself. We're all in agreement. That whole thing was the emotional, talk about Bernays, the emotional piece to get everybody looking over here instead of over here.
Exactly.
And it's not to say it didn't happen. It's not to say it didn't exist, but listen, it happens sadly every day.
Right.
Right. And I think it just would drum up so much in people. They get so angry and blah, blah, blah. And, and God bless them. It's really great men sticking up for women. There's a lot of very cool things that go on over there, but they're getting so heated and emotional and stuck on politics. They're not looking at the macro story. I believe that is what this was all about, is to not see the macro story. But I also believe now people's eyes are opening. And I say this too, because I was tracking the UK before before I started Sally, but because I knew what was going on there and their eyes were opening. And then our eyes were not at all. But now the UK is so far ahead of us on data centers and everything that's going on. We are just following them by about 90 days-ish. And now our people are starting to get angry and get it and follow and understand 2 + 2 is 4. And
do you think it like I do? Because I'm curious, because you've done a lot more research on this particular subject. I look at it and say, and again, this is just my common sense talking, and I could be wrong on the common sense because I might not have all the facts, but I look at flock cameras. We talk about them in the state of Missouri and around the country. They're popping up everywhere. I mean, by the millions, they're putting up these flock safety cameras. If you look into the technology of them, they can track your face, they can track your identity, they can track a color of your car, a scratch on your car, your license plate. They can track everything. When you throw that into an AI system, you can say, okay, tell me what Robb did in 2007 on Tuesday. What did he do on Tuesday in 2007, January 16th?
Sure.
And it'll be able to tell you where I went, who I was. And if you put that into an AI map, it could tell you who I'm friends with, where I'm spending my time. It can make a digital profile of me. They can sell to me. They can manage me. They can do whatever they want to me, because now they know me better than I know me. And I wonder if that is ultimately what's going on here, is the control grid system, so they can have a digital. Elon Musk said one time, and it caught my attention. He said, right now in the world, there's a digital version of you that is every bit as important as you yourself are. And it just was one of those passing statements that nobody paid attention to. And I said, wait,
like all of his statements.
Right. There's a digital version of me in the world right now that's every bit as important as me. That tells me that there's a digital profile of me.
Oh, there has been.
Right. It is me, that they know how to communicate with me, manipulate me, do whatever they want with me.
Here's where my this is where my actual expertise lies. Like the science stuff I'm just learning. Again, this is not my wheelhouse. This is actually my wheelhouse, because I spent 15 years pushed into ad tech for no reason. Is not what I chose to do. That's just what they did to the advertising business. We were pushed into ad tech. So I had to work within Google and Meta and Amazon, all these companies, literally every day. And I had a lot of questions. I had a lot of suspicions. I still do. I'm going to zip my lip on that, because there's some stuff I have brewing. But this is really where, when I started to put my math together and go through these files, I can tell you 100% with 100% certainty how this went down. So from pre-tech, even pre-tech, we have a guy named Mark Klein who came out. You should look it up. He was a whistleblower. I think he just passed away in recent years, but he wrote this book. It's called Wiring Up the Big Brother Machine. That's really where you should start. Like he's the guy that, like, when I tell everybody go to Bernays to understand the history of advertising, I would understand the history of surveillance from this guy. He basically was an AT&T on-site technician. He worked at this place that had, I think it was like a hotel or something. They told him, don't go in room 641A, don't go in room 641A. He doesn't go in, he doesn't go in, he finally goes in. Like, they just said, keep systems flowing. And they find that they were duping all of our phone records over to the NSA.
Uh-huh.
So he comes out, I believe he was on trial, got immunity, if I have this right. And, you know, it gets brushed under the rug, just like a lot of surveillance, just like Edward Snowden, just like, I mean, not that that really got brushed under the rug, but like we forget, you know? So you have all of this. This is the interesting thing that people really need to understand. They are not just beginning to surveil us. They have always surveilled us, right? 100%. They have always had our data. And people are like, oh, but they weren't selling our data. Yes, they were. When Google came to be, and by the way, this is an email I've highlighted in so many of my emails. There is an email. It is from a guy named John Brockman. So this backstory gets a little wonky because John Brockman was just a literary agent for basically all the Nobel Prize winners, all the scientists putting out these crazy books that I'm telling you on reality.
Uh-huh.
He sends an email in 2013. I'm going to tell you the recipients. Sergey Brin and Lori Park of Google, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Jeffrey Epstein, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg. 2013, okay? And now, he didn't write this piece, so he's essentially flipping the written piece of somebody else, maybe one of his clients, because again, he was a literary agent, but this is a piece of published work or unpublished work, I'm not sure. He flips it to all of them. You know, you have the co-founder of Google on this, and one of the original engineers at Google, Lori Park, who is in Billionaire Dinners with Epstein, hosted by John Brockman. That's a whole other thing, the Edge Foundation, which was like a fucking corrupt philanthropy. The email basically states we had Project Corona with the NSA, DOD, and CIA back in the Cold War. We then basically doubled down on that with Google Earth and found a way to essentially like legally spy on people and watch them. We then created the area in California that we now call Silicon Valley. And with the data mining that this is verbatim, that we are already using with Google and the NSA to data mine, with what we're doing with Google and the NSA to data mine, this is 13 years ago.
Right.
From there, or around there and beyond, everybody gets their email through Google, their maps through Google, their YouTube, what they watch through Google, their Google Earth, literally our information, our knowledge base. I don't believe you. I looked it up on Google.
Right.
Well, what if Google's lying to you, right? So anyways, they talk about data mining, which basically means they're already tracking, watching, whatever. And they even say, and here's where it gets really creepy, is they even say, if we just, use these computers to learn more, people will be on their best behavior. You've now seen Larry Ellison come out with that quote 1 million times.
Yep.
People will be on their best behavior. Then Larry Ellison owns Oracle. What do they say in the next paragraph? If we use Alan Turing's Turing test, again, that's the test, is a machine smarter than a human or a human smarter than a machine, we can make it become an oracle to predict people's next move.
That's what they're talking about. That's what Catherine Austin Fitts talks about. And
100%.
And Whitney Webb is predictive criminality, where they can predict a crime before it happens.
And that's all this was about. So they already, my point to all this is everybody's like, this is just happening now. No, this is happening the last 2 decades. What they were able to do with AI capability, and I worked in machine learning for 10 years, so I do understand it. And that's why I don't want to be around it. With machine learning, they were able to not only amplify their capabilities, right, and automate it, they're able to scapegoat their legality to machines, because now it's not humans actually spying, it's machines spying, right? They're able to scapegoat a lot of things. Something goes wrong, somebody goes into psychosis, somebody unalives themselves, whatever. Oh, we didn't do it, the machines did it, it's not our problem, right? So you have that. But also, yes, there is a sense of, and this now goes back to Bernays, if you think about everything that propaganda everything that advertising, everything that consumerism, everything that you see in media was based on was emotive, because he wanted to tap into his uncle's finding, Sigmund Freud's findings, right? Like, everything is emotive, and it's like, let me study their behavior. Let's get in a bunch of cognitive scientists, which is exactly what they did, which is why Facebook is facing this suit right now, because they studied human behavior to figure out, what are they addicted to? What are their patterns? What are they going to buy? What are they watching? What do they like? Let me serve them two separate streams of information, keep them divided, keep them arguing, keep them informed the way I want to keep them informed. All this crazy shit that's already gone on. AI kicks that all up to a next level and says, give us predictive data, which, by the way, is what Palantir is too. It's just a data company.
Yep.
That we can now pre-police. We can now be basically Minority Report.
Yep.
And people have already been wrongly identified, wrongly jailed. There's a grandma in Tennessee. I'm in Tennessee. There's a grandma that was wrongly imprisoned for a crime she was nowhere near for months. She lost her dog and it's an insane story. I'll send it to you. But this is already happening, where there's just you're leaving it up to fallible machines.
And they think those machines are God. So when you say, "Oh, wait a minute, the machine got it wrong," they're like, "No, the machine never gets it wrong."
Yeah.
That's where the elections are. They say the machines can never get it wrong. Can't count on him.
Well, and bigger than that, even if it is wrong, they just don't give a shit, because again, it's such a nice scapegoat for them to be like,
Wasn't me. Fascinating.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. And the stuff with Google and Meta specifically, I have to some degree, and I think, and that's another thing. If you just think about how abuse works, right, is that they handcuffed everyone specifically in this country, but beyond this country too, to only have these options. So it's like, yes, there's other platforms you can try to be on, try to get visibility, but they got the market share, which they're not supposed to do. That's why there's antitrust violations, right?
You're on the same page with me, and I think it's the background. I think it's the media background, it's the business background,
it's
the journalism background. Right. And I say to my reps, I talk about in the show, I said, if social media is the public square, young people are not. This is where they get their information. They're not watching corporate television. They're getting their information from shows like this and many other around the country. This is the public square. This is where people discern. This is where people communicate. This is where people find out what reality actually is, where the truth lies. And then you have these big corporations that are backed by our own government that filtrate what people can see.
I know, but they're doing it on social media now too.
But they should be able to stop that. You should be able to go to your government and go, wait a minute, we don't want it that way. You work for us. We don't want this to happen. We want freedom in the information flow on social media sites. You can't use algorithms to block what Robb is saying and what Amanda is saying, and then perpetuate that idiot Benny Johnson is saying.
They're bought. It's very clear they're all bought. So it's like, now what do we do? And I think that's what I've been struggling with for a while. Because I mean, if you look at, do you know the story of Bill Gates getting away with his antitrust for Microsoft
Back in the 90s? Yeah, I used to play the videos where he's shaking and bouncing back and forth, where he stole technology, took it for his own, went to court for it, and just everybody said, I guess he gets to keep it.
And he supposedly philanthropically, because he's such a nice guy.
He's such a nice guy with the shirt and sweater.
The Mr. Rogers attire. He bailed out Jobs and Apple. And a lot of people don't know this.
I didn't know that.
He saved Apple from going bankrupt because he's such a good human. No, he didn't. He did that so, number one, he got a stake in it, and he created a competitor so that he didn't have any antitrust violations, that he had an actual competitor all this time. That is the only reason Microsoft was able to have, the lion's share of what they had all this time, because he saved the day with Jobs and Apple. And it's like, you see all these corrupt things that go on for so long, and you realize you're now down to 5 key players with tech, right? You've got basically Meta, Google, and the reason I left my job was, or I shouldn't say job, my field, corporate, better way to put it, is I was like, why am I being forced to be on Bill Gates' email, Bill Gates, Microsoft, Bill Gates Teams, Microsoft Teams. I know he's not necessarily the owner, but come on. all these Bill Gates things, or I have to be on Google. Like, I don't want to be involved. Now that I know these things about these people, I don't want to be involved. Or Jeffrey Epstein AI. I'm sorry. I would like to not use these things. And weirdly, there's no alternative in corporate.
Right.
How is that possible that an entire world, even when we had like Slack, for example, and I don't know enough about Slack to probably even say this, but Slack or other alternatives, all of a sudden, Gates came in, Microsoft came in. I can't say Gates because I don't know if he was still active, but Microsoft came in, offered all these corporate companies Teams for free. Of course you did. Because now you have all Teams chats, you have Teams videos, you have all this data, and they all abandon their platform. And if you notice, that's kind of what's happened this whole time is people keep abandoning other pieces of software, other pieces of social media, and you're down to the same 5 people, ironically, in the Epstein files, working with Epstein 20 years ago and funding all this to be where we're in a prison. We're already in a prison.
I feel it every day. I'm 100% with you.
That's why when people are like, well, they're going to get us in a digital cage, I'm like, hi, we're already in a digital cage.
Do you think, Amanda, that this is a group of people not bounded by, because, most people want to look for, they see the world in 2 dimensions. They say, okay, well, this is Israel behind it. It's the UK behind it. It's the United States behind it. It's China behind it. It's Venezuela behind it. Instead of just saying this is a loosely affiliated group of people that have been able to attain power. They're not looking at boundaries, and they're not looking at countries, and they're not looking at
100%.
They're just a group of people that have power.
I think there is so much created, and I, can't tell you I have anything literally substantiated. This is just my opinion, but I think there is so much created on borders and boundaries and right and left and blue and red and whatever on purpose.
Yeah.
That really just all leads up to, and I don't even like to say like some like elitist, because I don't believe they're elite at all, but some people that are kind of just like it definitely in bed together and calling these shots. And the more that they, produce division all the way down, the better it is, because everyone's just going to keep arguing their heads off. I mean, you see it at such a small scale. You could see it at a local, you could see it at your freaking town meeting.
Right. You do all the time. Yeah.
You can't focus. They can't even focus on the thing that they're talking about. Like, if we want to put up a fucking light, it's like you got 90 people arguing because 45 people want this and 45 people want this, and then there's vested emotion there. There's like vested interest. There's resentment. It's like, well, 14 years ago, your side said we didn't need a light, and it's like this is how they do it.
So
all the way up, And again,
it gets you addicted to the fight. I was talking about it earlier. The fight. There's so many addictions in the United States. They thrive off addiction. They understand, like you said, the human psyche.
Yep.
I'm versed with addiction because my father was, addicted to drugs and alcohol, and he got sober, and I went through the whole process of understanding addiction. So I'm fascinated by that subject as well. You see it in your own society. You see it in yourself. You see that you get addicted to these certain things, and it becomes almost who you are, and it strips the logic away. You do things that don't make any sense, because that's what addiction does. It strips your ability to think away. And I think the entire country is under these addictive spells to where it's impossible to get on the same page, because even the fight itself is
addicting. I know.
The whole identity is built up in the fight.
Well, and what's scary is, and I think my mission is trying to stay really focused on, is that wasn't an accident. Because when you see the cognitive behavioral scientists they brought in and they worked with for years, right? Because there's a shit ton of them. And I'm not talking American cognitive scientists. I'm talking all over the world. Mm-hmm. The top behavioral scientists, these are brilliant people, right? I mean, not whoever for whatever, all you want. These are brilliant minds and strategists and all these things. And it's just like being in advertising, having a focus group. It's like having freaking lab rats in an experiment, which is kind of what I feel like we were. And I think should be a huge fucking class action lawsuit and crimes against humanity, but that's just me. I think
courts that you could rely on, Amanda. If we had courts, I don't know if we have courts anymore.
Yeah, if we had anything legal, how many times I've gone to the Federal Trade Commission, which used to be an ally in a lot of these things. You used to be able to bring up a fraud complaint, and they were all over it. 6 months I'm trying, nothing. Look, it's very obvious it's all corrupt and eroded, but my focus was if I could just not if I could not be in the now with everyone in the argument of the now, what's going on, and the data centers of now, and Trump this and blah blah blah, and I could be like, yo, here's the history, the planning, the timelines, the players, the backstory, the genesis, and how it got here. I think because for me, it totally turned my head, changed my opinion on a dime, where I was like, wow. I feel so fucking played for so fucking long, and I don't want to give you that anymore. I will not give that piece of me anymore. I will educate. I will do as much as I can, but it's going to take a major rewiring at this point, because people have to rewire away from their daily phone addiction, their
100%.
daily, everything that we've become used to because they made us this way. They're arguing their political sides. Look, just go live a happy life, get in nature, put your phone down. These people are pieces of shit. Sorry, they are. They belong in prison.
All of them are evil.
They literally belong in prison. I'll die on that hill. And
are you getting any stress put upon you? I would assume at some point, with the bigger you get, the more stress you're going to have to absorb.
From
the system in general. I always say it's the system.
Did you see what they did to me yesterday?
No, what happened?
And I know this is no coincidence. I know I've had it confirmed too. I had a great international call yesterday. I'm working with organizations, beyond the U.S. that are extremely helpful, and they have assessed a lot of my shadow banning and censorship and some of the the goading and needling that they're doing to try and make me get unhinged. And, if I get really upset by something they do and I jump on and I'm emotional, guess what? It then leads a bunch of people to be like, she's just a conspiracy theorist. She's crazy. She don't know what she's talking about anyway. Right. So I know what they're doing. I lived a life with a narcissistic abuser for 10 years. I'm very well aware of how this all works. I have a book on it, blah, blah, blah. So yesterday, of all people in the world, I had a friend near and dear to me, 24 years. He was one of the most important people in the world to me, passed last year, April 5th of last year. And we were extremely close. We had plans to, a pact, if we never had kids, to have a kid together. We were very, very, very close. Right. He passed suddenly last year. Yesterday, he wrote to me on Instagram. They hacked
somebody who died April 5th of last year sent you a message on Instagram yesterday.
They hacked into his account yesterday, emailed me and was like, I'm not dead. I've just been very sick. I didn't die. I have cancer. I need to get surgery, from his account yesterday.
Were they looking for money?
They were looking for money, but here's the thing. I have read that there's a lot of deceased accounts at this point getting taken over, and that's an automation thing. That's not your one-off hacker. That's they're automating this. And I do believe, if you look at the amount of layers, put it this way, my layers, my profile I've had for 10 years, I have had to show my license 5 times on who I am in the past 2 months. I've gotten blocked out. I've had to put my license back in, prove who I am, 2-factor authentication, blah, blah. But yet these people, they get through. They don't get, this is Meta doing this. And I feel very strongly about that. And this is a guy who, he's kind of a playboy. I'm sure he had a ton of girls in his DMs. He just happened to email me, the person sort of barking the most about AI and all this stuff, and started a whole conversation with me yesterday. And I was going back and I was like, that's weird because you're dead. And he's like, no, I'm not. But you watch the video on it. It's totally going viral right now. It's fucking crazy. The emotional unrest that gives somebody. The second I saw his name,
right,
that was like, Mark Glover messaged you. I was like, I'm sorry. What? My heart sank, that really terrible gut feeling. I was crying all day yesterday, completely re-triggered by it. That shouldn't be something people have to emotionally endure at all, right? What?
That's the future.
Yeah, but do I think that Meta was completely, do I think that was a coincidence? I don't.
No, doesn't sound like it. It's like you said, you can't do that kind of thing. So somebody has to have the access to be able to get it done and go through all the what do they call it? 2-factor But what do they call that? I hate that when I have to do that.
Reflect your intuition.
Yeah, every time I do that, it's a pain in the ass, and I'm
Yeah.
thinking,
And it just seems to get worse. It's like, go over here and then sign into this, and then also bring in your bank and sign into Google and go over here. But this guy got in to my dead friend's account. I don't think you did. You know, like you look at stuff like that, and there's been a lot happening with videos of mine going missing. People have told me they've seen like videos of mine go missing right in front of their eyes. Like it was right there, it was gone. I did a podcast on the Sean Atwood podcast like 3 weeks ago, and there was like strange noises the first 20 minutes where we couldn't even talk. And he's like, in all my history, in all my years, I have never seen this happen.
Everybody thinks we're crazy. I was on the radio station when I would have these interviews, and all of a sudden we'd have noises come down. The person would get shut off, this and that and the other. I go, what is happening here?
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that it's not happening now that I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah, have you noticed that? If you listen to Real Talk, they don't have those problems anymore. When I was there, like it happened every time I did a big interview. It's going in and out, and people are getting this and that, and I'm like, what in the world? And they make you feel like you're a crazy person.
But that's the point.
Yeah, they make you feel like you're crazy.
I mean, that's always been the point, right? Since the movie Gaslighting, 1944, Ingrid Bergman. That is the point. You crazy make somebody so that they descend into madness, and then you point at their madness. I could go on and on about this. And
Don't go mad.
It's happening a lot right now. What?
I said, don't go mad.
Don't go mad. No, but it's goading, it's needling, it's pushing somebody, and it's for reactionary abuse. Then you look at their reaction and you're like, this person's nuts, right? It's like, no, the person doing that is usually the one, not usually, almost always with psychopathy, right? Because they're actually trying to take away someone's truth and push them, beyond their emotional like limits. I mean, that's a crazy person, not the person going through it. And our world doesn't totally understand that yet. I think they're starting to as well, but man, there's so much manipulation, and it's just getting so gross. And I do think AI in and of itself, forget all the other backstory, is just such a level of misinformation. And they've manipulated my Google AI literally 24 hours apart. I was a minimal creator profile with a like minimal presence. The next day I was part of a viral conspiracy theory. I was like, how did I do that overnight? That's crazy. Like they don't, and they've changed shit up on Epstein. They've made
It's digital. They can change whatever they want.
Exactly.
They can change anything at any time.
That revisionist history.
You're in a world with no foundation, because if everything is kept in a digital version and somebody has the ability to change it digitally, you never know what's going on anymore.
Nope. And you never will again. And I think that was largely the point. And it's like, you could sit here and you could say, that's weird that Google fucked up some things on Epstein, or Google fucked up some things on its own, founder, or blah, blah, blah. But then you realize they were involved in the planning for this with Epstein, and you go, okay, no, Google's not making mistakes. Google's doing exactly what it was designed to do. All of this revisionist history, this was a plan.
Mm-hmm.
So,
my last question I got for you.
Okay.
What would you, if you were to say right now, I have to predict the future, what does the world look like 25 years from now? It could be a year from now, but 25 years from now, we have to solve this as human beings, don't we? Or we're going to get solved.
I'm such a bad person to ask.
I don't like to make predictions. I'm just curious what you think.
No, because I write sci-fi, and I have a book right now I'm writing about 25 years in the future, and that is definitely not the answer you want to hear, because it's like dark dystopian sci-fi. I don't know that we're here 25 years from now.
I'm starting to think the same thing. I don't stress out. Everybody else they think you're a black pillar in this thing. Like, I don't stress out about anything necessarily. I live my life. I do the best I can.
Exactly.
You're a Christian. I'm a Christian. I can see the necklace hanging from your neck. I'm like, I do the best I can with every day, and then I leave it to God to take it from there. But I look out into the world and I see, because of what I do, I did a radio talk show. I'm communicating with a lot of people. I'm booking guests. I have a lot of frame of reference that other people wouldn't naturally have.
Right.
And I see really smart people all over the world that completely disagree with what is happening. Nobody is on the same page with anything. There's no objective truth anymore. Mm-hmm. I always wonder, how does humanity survive? How do people construct what is real and what isn't real if nobody has a frame of reference that they can rely upon? And it seems like we're here. I play a clip from Barack Obama all the time, and he says propaganda, in order to work, doesn't mean that they have to lie to you. It means they flood the system with so much He says poop, and then he goes untruth that nobody knows what to believe anymore. And I'm like, well, aren't we there? Does anybody know what to believe
Well,
anymore?
no, we're past there, but I think one of the things that can help, and it does seem to be, for whatever whatever it's worth, the small outreach that I have, it does seem to be kind of working. Is when you realize it was all by design, and you start peeling back those layers. For example, like people that date narcissistic abusers or marry them or whatever. And I know a lot about this subject because it's all very, very similar. What is happening to this world right now is narcissistic abuse. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah, well, they're cultivating it because of TikTok and bringing young kids, and everybody wants to be a celebrity and this kind of thing. They're kind of endorsing it.
Narcissistic abuse is actually like really misunderstood on how it works. Is actually like that's like the common term of a narcissist, but it's like a misnomer for the disorder. The disorder is usually somebody that hates themselves. They're like
they project it,
but they're it's like diagnosable to like 0.0005% of the population. It's actually not that common. Most people that have it wind up murderers. Anyways, the textbook for it, the things that they follow, the tactics, right? Tactically, it is everything that is happening to this world right now. The manipulation and things that they're doing are exactly the same. And what happens in a lot of these relationships, marriages, whatever, is they can't see through the fog for so long, be it 5 years, 10 years. It's usually 7, 8, 9, 10 years before they even leave. And it's because they're being misinformed and they're being gaslit, and that, there's faulty information coming at them for so long. They blame themselves, all this shit. But at one point, what winds up happening is they realize that it was all by design, that this wasn't a loving person, wasn't a caring person. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't, circumstantial. It wasn't their fault. It was all a calculated by design thing. And that is almost always, I ran a domestic abuse charity, foundation, all this stuff. Almost always that is the thing that wakes the person up, is when they go, oh shit, like this was all planned. You did this on purpose. And so I think that is the angle that I feel my voice was supposed to be lent to. It's not just like, oh my God, Epstein, because that feels very like salacious and stupid. But like, if you realize the planning you have tangible documents, emails, things in front of your face, I think people are starting to go, well, then wait a minute. I don't even want to be on the internet. I don't even want this stream of misinformation, all the AI bullshit coming at me and giving me wrong. I just, fuck it. I'm going to go spend time with my family, or whatever your thing is. I'm going to walk my dog. I'm going to fucking take a walk in nature, go to a mountain, go back to like the 90s when we were happy, though, is before we had all this.
It's amazing, is it not? I say this to all young people. There was a different time in the world where you were joyful. It's very hard to be joyful now. You can have happy. I mean, people are happy and people are unhappy. But, for the most part, I'm a happy person. But the joy, like I used to go to, I was a big sports fan when I was a kid. And you would go to a ball game or something and something good happened, and people were they were freed and they were joyful, and the energy was completely different than it is now.
Yep.
And you can't really explain it unless you've experienced it, but you're right. There's an energy drain that's going on in our country that needs to be addressed. And hopefully at some point, people will just get out and realize that all the fighting and all the pounding away at each other is just unnecessary. You're being manipulated. I used to say to my ex-wife, she used to always complain about her first husband.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and she would say, I know he's doing it on purpose. I said, well, explain to me this. If you know that he is trying to upset you, wouldn't it be wise not to let him upset you?
Mm-hmm.
I feel the same way here. I feel like if you know,
it's definitely not that easy, but yeah, there's
people are manipulating you, get out of the manipulation.
It should be, but it does take a rewiring. And I think that's a great segue, is like, it should be that snap to it, but in anything that you've done for a while and you create these routines in your brain and they're just sort of muscle memory and whatever, you actually have to go and rewire your brain. Right. And it's not our country, it's the world. That is going to take conscious effort that you put towards it, just like any addiction, right? You're used to getting up and drinking booze every day or whatever your situation. Yeah, smoking a cigarette every day, blah, blah, blah. I know a lot about addiction too. I was with an addict and I have my own demons that I've dealt with, but it takes a conscious effort to come in and be like, okay, I'm going to wean down. I'm just going to smoke one cigarette or have one drink or whatever. And you have to step your way to understanding a whole new reality. I think that is what's needing to happen to basically the world is like, I've been buried in a screen. I have no joy. My dopamine, my normal chemicals are being sucked away into social media addiction or whatever, or just doom scrolling or whatever. I stopped reading books. I stopped just taking a walk, going to the mall. Why do you think all these malls shuttered and bookstores closed their doors? Like we all got instant, faster, Amazon. I'll get everything from Amazon. I refuse to shop Amazon.
I don't either.
Good.
I've never bought one thing from Amazon in my life.
Oh, I have. I worked for them for years.
You were in their corporate offices on the West Coast?
I was supposed to be in Seattle, but COVID broke. So my move actually got canceled while I was driving there. And I had a leased apartment there. And they canceled my move and put me back in Tennessee. So I worked for them remote as a creative director in 2019 to 2021. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I used to go to Amazon. I used to sell to Amazon when I was in the shoe business. And I went there one time to tell them we were no longer going to do business with them.
Did you go in the Spheres?
Where?
In the Spheres?
I don't know what that is. They had it was a big building, and I remember it was like a maze when you went inside. There was I only went there a couple times in my career, but I went there to tell them because normally I wouldn't go to the account myself. I wasn't in that position, but the CEO of our company said, Rob, will you go there in person and tell them we're no longer going to do business with them because we were going to do business with Zappos. They bought Zappos.
Yeah.
In the shoe business. So
yeah,
we don't want to offend, these people. So just go there and look them in the eye and say, listen, we're going to focus on small independent stores. We don't want to do business with Amazon because it's creating too much of a cost struggle. So I went there and I'll never forget it. There's a big, heavy lady and I liked her. And we're walking out of the building after I just told her and her DMM and GMM that we were no longer going to do business with them. And we're walking down. And I thought she was going to be upset with it. It was very uncomfortable, right? Because you're telling them that because they wanted, you're doing a lot of business with them, so they didn't want to lose the brand. And I'm walking out, and she goes, "You made a really, really good decision today." I said, "Well, it wasn't my decision; it was Gary's decision. He was my boss." I said, "I'm just the messenger like that." She goes, "Well, tell Gary he made a really good decision today." I go, "You being for real? You messing with me?" Because we had.
I believe it.
She said, "You made a really good decision today," and I never really thought about what that meant because at the time I wasn't savvy enough to really understand it.
Yeah.
Amazon sucks the life out of all the businesses that they get involved in. They just suck the life right out of them, but they give you it's like an addiction, right? At the beginning, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to be on Amazon. I'm going to sit there. All these eyes are going to see my little shoe store in Madison, Wisconsin. So I'm going to sell a lot more shoes. And then the fees go up. And then all of a sudden you're addicted to Amazon. They drag up their fees. You can't make any money selling shoes anymore. And they win.
Well, and I think just the expediency of getting your stuff, and being lazy is what has happened is we've made people lazy. I don't want to go to the store, or I don't want to shop 3 different stores and everything's right here and it's just going to show up tomorrow. Screw it. I don't care if I just keep giving this one company money that has driven every other company to close their doors. And I can't even understand. I mean, again, I worked for them, but I left. I didn't go down easy. I mean, I wrote a scathing letter to Jeff Bezos when I left. And I was, pretty high up enough that it would get there. But I have no confirmation that
I would assume you never even heard back, right?
Never heard back. He wound up stepping down very shortly after anyways. Went over to Andy Jassy and blah, blah, blah. But I can't even, in my mind, and again, this is just maybe being an empath, but understand seeing what you've done to the world and being like, no, we'll just keep making more money and having more stores close and shutting more businesses and more malls until we're the only store on earth. Like, you don't need it, so why do you have to be the only store? Why do you have to be the only tech company? Why do you have to be the only platform? Like, it's just a selfishness billionaire level that I just can't for the life of me comprehend it.
I think it comes down to power, right? Because, at some point when you have all the money in the world, what you want from that point forward is power.
And these nut jobs, sorry, but from everything I've read in the files, they're even past the power part because they have that too. Then they all went to these scientists and said, well, now I want immortality.
Right. Well, did you see Jared Kushner? Jared Kushner said this generation that we're in now, or the next generation, will have the ability to live forever.
Yeah.
So that's what they're working on, is the ability for certain people to live forever. And then I think at that point, they're like, okay, if we can live forever, what do we need all these people getting in our way for? We'll have the robots do it, and we'll be able to live forever with the people that we care about, and we'll be able to control the earth. And that's what I think is crazy enough science fiction story, but I think there's some reality to it. Amanda, thanks a ton for your time.
I did have a clip I wanted to play for you guys that I just saw come through my feed. It's Sam Altman, and it looks like just from the logo that he's speaking at Y Combinator. And for those, I know Amanda probably knows what Y Combinator is, but I worked in tech too, Amanda.
Okay.
So everything,
love this combo.
Oh yeah, I worked in digital advertising. That's what I still help people with meta ads to this day, and so it resonates a lot with me. But here he kind of breaks down what the future looks like, since we were talking about the future of what these billionaire, technocrats, this is their vision. Now, he doesn't talk about living forever because it's a quick 30-second clip, but you kind of get the idea that that's also what he means here. So thought you guys would appreciate this.
Check it out. Yeah.
The utopia that I'm particularly nervous about 10 years from now is we overreact to AI safety. And so we say, look, everyone, you're going to get a cure for cancer. You're going to have material abundance, but you will have no freedom. You will have no agency. It will be a perfect surveillance state. There will be no privacy. And that's what you're going to get. You're going to get great comfort, but you will have, there will be nothing left in the world for you to really do. Nothing that really matters. You'll just kind of live at the, service of the AI giving you material wealth.
Sound about right?
Sounds great.
Yeah, it sounds awesome, right?
So
but doesn't that sound
fantastic.
like Yuval Noah Harari said at the World Economic Forum, he said, before too long, we're not going to really need humans to work because everything, whether it be physical or mental or emotional, will be done by AI robots. And the person says, well, what are humans going to do? And he goes, right now, he goes, we haven't really figured that out yet. We're thinking,
who gives a shit?
So we're thinking drugs and video games. And I said, the younger.
But they're full of shit with this. Listen, I'm sorry, but I still find this to be very manipulative because when I see, again, going backwards, and Altman wasn't even really around yet. He's like barely even mentioned in the files. So not to defend him, but he isn't. This is very pre-Altman times. They're like literally planning for our job loss in ways that are like, brace for impact. There's a whole industrial revolution coming, blah, blah, blah. I think this is just manipulative language to be like, you'll just have billions of dollars. No, we won't. No, we won't. I've seen the most crazy things and people believing it. Like, you just think of money and it exponentially grows.
Right.
You don't feel manipulated by that? There's people out of work 4 years already. Where's their money?
These are not good people. You start from that premise.
Exactly.
They sell you all this pie in the sky nonsense that the future can have through AI. You just realize that these are not very good people. So why would they care about your comfort or anything else?
These people believing Elon, I'm like, so when you go to the strip club, you do believe the stripper loves you? Like that is where you're at?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
The stripper loves you.
The stripper loves you, Elon loves you, and the tech bros and bunkers living underground are looking out for your health and wealth.
I think you have a lot figured out. You got to come back on more. I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I was watching you and I said, this is a female version of me. We come from the exact same background. We have the same thought process. You have some different experiences than me, but very similar thought process.
Yeah,
I'd love to have you back on, and we'll guide people to your site.
All right, awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about marketing technology with you more too, Amanda. That's something that I do and I understood, and I kind of have educated Rob a little bit on stuff too of how the machine learning works. I worked for a large unicorn company. It became a unicorn eventually, where I was just blown away at the technology I had at my disposal, where I could watch someone visit our website and watch where they scanned all over the website. It wasn't Hotjar. Hotjar was one of them. There's a different company that we're using that showed where their mouse was moving on the screen. And it counted how many times they opened an email. And if they opened it so many times, I get a call task, right? And it all integrated with Salesforce. So it all automatically logged it, right? And it sounded
100%.
like this amazing thing. But as I thought forward, I said, well, they're telling us that they're looking at our email templates so that they can write better email templates for us in the future. So when are they not going to need us to send these emails out to all these people, right?
They already don't. And
this is in 2018 that I was seeing this.
And it's that kind of shit, like the things pitched as marketing. We just want to be able to remarket and retarget accurately. You're like, okay, if you're on the advertising side, you're like, I want to do that, until you realize how invasive it is. And until you realize that these people were not just tech people doing tech things, but they were tech people doing tech things with our government and our intelligence agencies. And you go, oh, that's not cute. That's not for you to just sell me something, I don't
They can
like
find you at the exact right moment to give you the exact right information that's going to make you take the exact right action that they want you to take.
Yeah, it's
Pretty
sick.
very scary.
It's
Total
actually sick.
Yeah.
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 Couldn't agree more. Amanda, is that your dog? Or is that Isaiah's dog?
I have two, and they
Because he lost his dog the other day, so I was like,
Yeah,
ah,
it was
the dog's
terrible.
Amanda,
13 hours, it was gone, Amanda, outside. It's a little chihuahua. It was
But he's
hanging out on
home?
somebody's porch.
He's home.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's home.
Amanda, we're gonna have you back on.
Okay.
You got to promise me right now, because then we'll start talking bad about you if you don't come back on.
No, I'll come back.
All right. Good luck to you. We're going to move people toward your website one more time. If people want to read through that information, I think Isaiah had it on there. What is it, real fast? Where do people find it and they can do their own
The
homework?
main site is siliconsally.com with an IE. Yeah. Siliconsally.com. And there's a couple pieces on there you can go through, but it doesn't have any of my videos where I break down like a lot of the receipts and Epstein stuff. So that's just Facebook or Instagram. You're going to be your easiest ones to find that.
You're on. We're going to guide people toward it. I'm going to check it out. I can't wait to look through it because I think the information is going to be fascinating. And we'll be back in touch with you very soon.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Bye, you too.
Isaiah. Huh?
Yes, sir.
Now, see, I find that stuff incredibly fascinating. It's, it is.
Her and I would nerd out for a long time because
I was definitely nerding out.
It was, I would say that what got me into technology is an article that it's Wired magazine. Do you remember that magazine? Wired? Yeah. So Wired magazine interviewed Mark Zuckerberg a long time ago, Rob, before any brands were on Facebook. And it was just, right out of the college phase. And they were just getting into where you don't have to be at a college and have a college email. Normal people could now sign up. And so he's interviewing, and Mark Zuckerberg is petitioning brands to join and create their own Facebook profile for their brands. And they're like, why would Nike join Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg? Who's going to find Nike on Facebook? Why do they care? And he's like, I know it sounds crazy, but in the future, right? He already saw that. I don't know how he saw it. I think we
probably already knew.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think we know Harvard, right? He discovered Facebook at Harvard, right? Okay.
Supposedly, yep.
But he said, well, in the future, just imagine this world with me, which is what they always do. That's what they always want you to do. They imagine this world, right? They want to paint a picture for you. He's like, imagine this world where there's these brands, right? And there are these people. And this is what MySpace actually set out to do as well, originally as well. I don't know if you knew that, Rob. But there's these brands and these people. And what I want to do is I want to create a marketplace. That's the verbiage is that he was using. I want to create this marketplace to connect the brands and people. And what do we see today? Facebook ads. If you're not utilizing Facebook advertising in your business, you're missing out on a huge chunk of revenue that you could be driving for your business, right? And some businesses rely solely on Facebook ad revenue, which I've talked about before, of a company where my CEO approached me and said, hey, 99% of our revenue is coming from Facebook. I'm just worried about COVID and then shutting us down. What happens if that happens? And that was a concern now that was never before and is now a concern. Same thing like you guys were talking about with Amazon. It's nice that my little store in Wisconsin is getting a lot of attention, but then whoa. Now I pay you $1 to sell my shoes now instead of me making some money. It's becomes ridiculous then. So
I hear some people say, she was cursing. And
I know, I loved it.
In the chat, some people like that she speaks bad language. Other people are saying she uses it too much. It's so funny how language it sparks an emotion in people. I don't have that same backlash on it, but I
neither.
People that do. All right,
I just thought myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah. Especially around Ivy.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Because it's cultural. Let me get through some advertising very quickly, and then I got just a little bit more left today. eXp Realty. This is Debbie Genus. eXp Realty. Debbie is she's our family realtor. So if you are buying a home, selling a home, especially if you're moving around, whether it be Illinois, Missouri, or Florida, she's licensed in all 3 states. She's licensed in all 3 states because she understands the game. Listen, buying and selling a home is not something you leave up to chance. This is the biggest purchase that you're ever going to make. You want to be with somebody who has the experience to guide you in the right direction. We say it's Deborah Genus, been in real estate for 28 years. She's been in the insurance game for 14 years. She knows all the ABCs of selling a home. We trust her. Debbie Genus, Deborah.Genus at exprealty.com. You can reach her at 314-482-9205. EXP Realty, Debbie Genus. Again, reach out to me, reach out to Isaiah, reach out to whoever you need to. You can go on the chat if you lose the information. But when you are buying or selling a home, it's always Debbie Genus, Deborah.Genus at exprealty.com, 314-482-9205. And then shortly, I was just communicating with Mitch the other day. We're going to have Mitch on the show. He'll talk about all the Epstein noise that we've heard about the child trafficking, the stories that he's been following for years. He's an encyclopedia with the child trafficking, the Pizzagate, all of those stories. He's been compiling them. He's kind of like Rick Bavitz when you come to financial and history. He's that same way when it comes to Pizzagate, all the child trafficking stories, the Hollywood connections, the Epstein story. He is he's incredible with that information. Let me tell you something. If I bring one thing up, I think I told you the other day, I'll bring some story up and I'll get 3 text messages from him. Boom, 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 boom. Here's all the information that was out there at the time. RocketCareers.com, ROCKIT careers.com, RocketCareers.com. Whether you are a small business, a medium-sized business, doesn't matter. If human resources does not get the job done for you, or you don't have the money to hire a human resources operation, use RocketCareers.com to put the right they find the right candidates so that you can have good people working for your business. It's not much more complicated than that. Talent recruiting is their game. If you want their services, it's very simple. Rocket, ROCKIT careers.com, RocketCareers.com, 636-778-2419. And as always, don't forget this. If you're out of work, if you hate your job, just look up RocketCareers.com. My good friends Mitch and Brian been at this for a long time. This is a nationwide business, so it's coast to coast, doesn't matter. RocketCareers.com for small to medium-sized businesses. And on the employee side, if you're out of work or hate your job, just give them a call. RocketCareers.com, ROCKIT careers.com, 636-778-2419. And then we have AdvancedWellnessMed.com. Don't forget, everybody, we've got the Shield Maidens of Missouri. They will be at the Afton Police Station tonight at 7 p.m. That's Lisa Panette, the world-renowned Lisa Panette, and Stacy Shore. They'll be there, and the title is Dropping Legislative Truth Bombs That Affect Your Everyday Life. If you have not seen the Shield Maidens in person and you're near Afton or want to get out to Afton at 7 o'clock tonight, highly suggest it. They'll give you a little bit more information on how Missouri works. You can ask them questions. You can see their performance. You can make your own judgments, but I think they're brilliant. Shield Maidens of Missouri, 7 p.m., Afton Police Station, 11500 Gravois Road in St. Louis, Missouri. Lisa Panette, Stacy Shore, again, tonight, August 19th at 7 p.m. at the Afton Police Station. AdvancedWellnessMed.com, that is Helen Gelhot. Everybody knows about Helen Gelhot by now. She says, feel, think, look better, and live longer. She works with people, and she works with diseases that kill you. So the earliest cancer detection blood test on the market. She works with Alzheimer's and dementia, symptom reversal. Got to check that out. If you have a family member or a friend suffering from dementia, you got to get a hold of Dr. Helen Gelhot immediately. And they pre-screen for heart attacks and strokes. Again, and I just lost a friend to a heart attack. If he'd have been there, true story, Isaiah.
Yep.
And my buddy Ryan had the finances because he was not rolling in dough, but if he'd had the finances and felt comfortable, he'd have went to Helen. She would have diagnosed us right away. He'd still be here. I lost another friend, Larry Lee. I just found out that today, too. So I lost 2 friends that I went to high school with, that I was friendly with. Ryan was a really close friend, so that's going to be a hard one to digest. But Larry Lee and I were friends for many, many years as well. Back when we were kids, he passed away, both from heart attacks. Again, if you are concerned about your health and you want pre-screenings to find out what's going on with your blood so you can live longer, get a hold of Dr. Helen Gelhot, 314-576-0094. Then we have joneswater.com, 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 636-899-1040, dehumidifiers, water filtration, air filtration. He's been around since 1995. This guy knows more about water and air than anybody you're ever going to talk to, and he's just a great, great guy with a great family. You'll be the filter or you'll buy the filter, joneswater.com. First step to a happy, healthy home is clean air and clean water. It's that simple. If you want to do business with Everett on the Missouri side, St. Charles County, Lincoln, Franklin, Warren, St. Louis, and Jefferson. If you go to the east side, Madison, Monroe, Jersey, and St. Clair, joneswater.com, joneswater.com, you'll be the filter or you'll be the filter, 636-899-1040. And then we have gracehauling.com.
Be the filter or buy the filter, Rob.
What did I say?
You said be the filter or be the filter.
You don't got to be the filter. Be the filter. That wouldn't even make any sense. It's a stupid slogan.
So
Be
you
the
don't,
filter
it's like
or
data
don't buy the
centers.
filter.
The data centers, you have no option. You're going to be the filter.
I think that AI co-opted my sound. I really said it right, and that's what you people heard.
It was
got
Toka.
involved.
It was the Israeli company Toka. They were
Toka got involved.
Yeah.
GraceHauling.com again for all your rubbish and trash needs, whether you're a business or a residential customer. It's always GraceHauling.com. Anybody that lives in St. Charles County, if you're driving around your neighborhood, eventually you're going to see Grace Hauling trucks because they're everywhere. Grace Hauling trucks, dumpsters, and cans. Why do you see so many of them? Because people like doing business with Grace Hauling and Gary Schneider. 2, 4, 6, and 8-yard dumpsters, outstanding customer service, competitive pricing. You can't beat them. GraceHauling.com, GraceHauling.com, GraceHauling.com. All right, Isaiah. It seems to me I had something. Here's what I wanted to do before we leave. Okay. Let me read a little bit about Edward Bernays. So I went into Grok. Now, I read Bernays many, many years ago, and I got the concepts of Bernays. Okay. So I want to read a little bit about Bernays. Okay. This is what it says. Edward Bernays. And a key for everybody, if you're a parent, if you're somebody worried about your kids and you want to have a little more insight to how the world works through narrative building and propaganda and marketing and sales and linking your emotions to a product or a thought that bypasses logic. Does everybody understand that? This is the secret code of the people that actually run the world. They understand language and they understand emotion. And what Bernays and Sigmund Freud and these people figured out was that through certain techniques, they could bypass your logic and go directly to your emotion and control your behavior without logic. That's why I say the political arena, these people that are running political campaigns and advertisement, the really big ones with tons of money, well, they know how to trick you. They know the language. They know the techniques. I watch them all the time. I'm fascinated by how simple it is to diagnose, but 99.9% of people have no idea that it's going on because how would you unless you were schooled in it? Edward Bernays and Sigmund Freud understand it. And who's an offshoot of both of these men? Sigmund Freud was the uncle of Edward Bernays. And then I think his name is Mark Randolph. He's the guy that started Netflix.
Yep.
So you're going to see the messaging throughout. They're going to be able to trick your senses into bypassing your logical mind and move right into your emotional being and be able to control your thought process. Okay, so this is what it says. Edward Bernays, often called the father of public relations, wrote extensively about shaping public opinion through propaganda, which he later rebranded as public relations. His 1928 book, Propaganda, is the primary source of these ideas. He argued that in modern democratic mass society, an invisible government. How about that, Isaiah? An invisible government, something we've been talking about lately.
Isn't that what the Mossad agent said?
Let me do something because my screen's not very bright. And I hate, if I want my screen bright, why does it automatically go dim when I'm trying to read something? Aggravates me. AI messing with me again. Okay, now it's bright. Now I can see it again. Okay. So let me just read this to you. Let me start over. In his 1928 book, Propaganda, his 1980, can I hit the rewind for me one more time, Isaiah? We got it ready?
Yeah.
Let's use it one time today.
Here we go. Up.
Thank you. We'll get that done. His 1928 book, Propaganda, is the primary source for these ideas. He argued that in modern democratic mass society, an invisible government of experts must deliberately guide the habits, tastes, and opinions of the public for society to function smoothly. He framed this as a necessary rather than purely sinister, drawing on group psychology influenced by his uncle Sigmund Freud and others. Here are keys, well-attested quotes. Here are keys, well-attested quotes in controlling or shaping the masses, often via organized messaging that functions as narratives or ideas. Very important to understand this. This is a quote from his books. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate the unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. We are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested largely by men we have never met or even heard of. And he wrote that in 1928, and it applies today.
Wow.
it's fascinating if you read Bernays and you watch this, what goes on in the world. You see it all over the place. You see people's opinions being shaped by things they can't explain. It's like it's like Q, right? So some of the smartest people in my life think the Q thing is real, yet nothing's happened to demonstrate that it's real. It's a feeling that they have because they got just enough truth and just enough information to go, this makes perfect sense to me because I can't make sense of the world that I live in. I rely on this inanimate figure that I have no idea about telling me what is going on. And I think I'm in this little secret bit of information so that I can understand where the world is heading. And listen, you may be right. But if you really think about it, it's really a feeling that you have. There's no logic to it.
Mhm.
There's no logic to any of those things. There's no logic to eating bacon and eggs for breakfast, which is a construct of
Yeah.
propaganda
Mhm.
and Bernays. Bernays is the one who linked your mind to bacon and eggs for breakfast, and that is culturally acceptable today, 100 years later. But there's no reason for it. There's no reason to eat cereal for breakfast in reality. It's only our culture that has been it's been so ingrained in our psyche that that's how we think of it nowadays. And he understood that. He said you can bypass the logical mind, just go right through it. So say you have a wall of logic and behind logic is emotion. People are moved, as she said, by their emotions, not by their logic. Emotion is what moves you. If somebody says, Rob, you need to get out of your house and go for a walk. And I'm like, I'm watching the ball game, right? That's not going to make me move. If they say, Rob, you're going to be dead in 30 seconds because your house is going to blow up. Now I'm getting out because now it's hit my emotion and I'm getting out of here. Does that make sense? As nice and simple as the way he says you can bypass the logical mind, get right into emotion. And once you understand the techniques to bypass the logical mind and get straight to emotion, then you can control society through emotion. And don't we see that working right now? You can never understand half of the things that people that they do, think, feel, say, believe in. You can never understand it. It's just a feeling that they get. It's bypassed the logical mind and right into emotion. Same thing with COVID. You don't think those techniques were being used? That's why I say your government's the enemy.
I was actually going to say right here, I was reading about Bernays, and it says he described the masses as irrational and subject to herd instinct.
Correct.
And what did they say they needed to reach? We have to reach herd immunity.
Yeah.
The herd has to be okay.
It's funny. This is how the world works. It's very interesting. So Elaine Herka, let's call her Elaine. She said, I like cold pizza for breakfast. Now, you don't know how weird the world is? Yesterday morning, my wife brought pizza home. We ate pizza. It was a big pizza, so we had about half the pizza left. And then when I got off the show yesterday, I went down into the kitchen, and my wife had a little plastic baggie with 4 of the big pieces of pizza that we got from this pizzeria down the street from our house. I pull out the pizza. My stepdaughter is heating up the oven because she wants some of this pizza for lunch as well. And I'm eating the pizza right out of the bag. And I said, you've never had cold pizza? She goes, oh, I can't believe you're eating it like that. I said, you've never had cold pizza? And she said, no. I said, you should try cold pizza. I was eating the pizza. It was right out of the fridge. I'm eating the pizza. I haven't said cold pizza, haven't thought about cold pizza in, I don't know, 5 years.
Yep.
Ate cold pizza for breakfast yesterday, and there's Elaine right there on the same page. We're mind melding, Elaine.
Oh, yes.
They're mind melding. It's amazing. And then something else happened the other day, too. So I'm out at dinner with my wife. It was on her birthday, and she's got one of her friends there, and they're talking about this place called Woofie's. Okay? So they're talking about Woofie's, and I don't know what Woofie's is, so I'm not paying attention.
Familiar.
But I'm in the middle of this conversation, and I'm just listening because I don't know anything about Woofie's. Now, there's a Woofie's in Missouri that's a hot dog place. This is a diner.
Okay. I was going to say, is that the one you're talking about?
No, this is a diner in Florida.
Okay.
And my buddy Kim goes, I used to love Woofie's. I used to love it. Didn't think much of it. That very next day, my wife and I sit down to watch TV. I had to buy Apple TV because I wanted to watch the Cardinal game, and it was on Apple TV. So I said, I'll pay the $13 to have it for a month. And my wife says, I told you to quit buying those apps. I said, but the Cardinal game, I got to watch this because they're hot. So I spent the $13. So now we have Apple TV. I'm going through the programs on Apple TV, and I see this movie about I think it's called something about the moon. It was about constructing a fake moon landing that was out a couple years ago. It's got Channing.
Oh yeah. There's an actress that's
Walk
famous
on the Moon or something like that. Yeah, it's got Scarlett Johansson in it.
Scarlett Johansson. Yes, yeah. It's a really good movie. You're like, man, this is probably what happened.
Exactly. And then in the movie, there's several different scenes because the whole thing takes place in Florida of Woofie's. And I said, isn't that odd? I've never heard Wolfie's in Florida about this diner. I've been here for 7 years. I've never heard the name even mentioned in my entire life. I have a conversation about it yesterday, and then it shows up on my television screen by happenstance the next day. And you know who told me to watch that movie?
Who?
Dan Strauss from the radio station. He goes, you talk about the moon landing being fake. He said, do you think it's fake? And I said, my guess is it's probably made up propaganda. I said, because you have to remember the time.
Yeah, we
And I
we
said,
lost the technology to go to the moon.
correct. We lost the technology to go to the moon. It doesn't make any sense. So, I don't know whether we did or didn't, but I don't trust my government anymore. Dan said, you should see this movie. And he said, it's with Channing Tatum and Scarlett Johansson.
Channing Tatum, that's who else was it?
Yeah. And he said something about the movie. You know who Channing Tatum looks like?
Who?
He looks exactly like my friend Max that I talk about. When Max was young, when we were kids in high school, I think he looks almost identical to Channing Tatum. The first time I ever saw Channing Tatum as an actor, I said, it looks exactly like my friend Max did in high
Wow.
school. It's incredible the way the world works. Anyway, that's my Bernays story for the day. I find it fascinating. And as we're talking about cold pizza, where do you eat lunch on Wednesdays if you're in Franklin
Oh,
County?
baby.
Where do you go?
The best pizza place in all of Missouri.
Maybe in the world.
Maybe the world.
Moe's Pizza in Washington, Missouri. Listen, if you get out to Franklin County and you get an opportunity to go to the landmark, which is Moe's Pizza, get out there, check it out. They got the pizza and salad bar. I think it's like, it's inexpensive, and you get to mow down as much pizza and salad as you like, which I enjoy. You can get sandwiches, you can get chicken wings, you can get burgers, you can get ice cream. Be a family environment. You'll love it. If you have any kind of get together at Moe's, if you have any kind of get together that might be a political meeting, a Bible study, an anniversary, or a birthday party, just think Moe's Pizza, because they have banquet space available. You'll love it. They'll treat you like family. Moe's Pizza in Washington, Missouri, at the corner of Grand and 5th Street. As he likes to tell me, Rob, God owns the place. I just work here. If you get an opportunity to go to Moe's Pizza, say hi for us. Get out there and get yourself some pizza and have a great time. Great people. Moe's Pizza when it's time for lunch. Get there.
Tell you what, their wings are delicious.
I haven't had the wings yet, I don't think.
Oh, my gosh.
Really?
Delicious. Yeah. The bone-in wings. That's what me and Mike were talking about. He's like, wait, Isaiah, do you want boneless or bone-in? And I was like, bone-in. It's the only way to go. And he's like,
I agree with you on that one. Bone in.
He's like, it's hard. I guess it's harder or it takes longer or something. But he was telling me, he's like, that's the only way to eat them, Isaiah.
I have so much information, Isaiah. I only got through about half of my clips today.
I know. We only have, tomorrow, we only have Act for Missouri, right? So we might have a little bit more time.
We have Act for Missouri, and I think we're going to bring on Sheriff Bonham because he's trying to get that constitutional.
That's right. That's right.
He's trying to get that constitutional sheriff law passed. And Ron Calzone, who we had on the show, he speaks on Missouri legislation. He thinks there's a lot of holes in that legislation. So I want to get to the bottom of it. I know there's a lot of people that are interested in the constitutional sheriff conversation in Missouri. So we'll get to that. Can I just
Friday? What's happening on Friday?
What do I have on Friday? You know what I have on Friday? I have who do I have on? Robb Workman is coming in with an attorney to talk about the chemicals in the skies.
Very fun.
You know,
we gotta get what's his name on?
No, the Mo Clean Skies went to work for the radio station.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I think he's doing a weekend show on there. I don't know.
No way.
I'll reach out to him.
Yeah, I wonder if he'll come on.
I would imagine. I mean, I promote Real Talk Radio still to this day.
Yeah. We just talked about Dan.
We just talked about Dan. We talked about Miz the other day and how impressive he seems to be. I like him. So
yeah.
I gotta just.
Rob, I think just an outside perspective looking in, I think you leaving made them realize that they need to be more open-minded to people that they don't agree with. I think that was a big. I think that they were more open-minded, right? Because that's the reason Real Talk started, was to get their own kind of information out there, right? And they didn't want to be censored. But just looking at how things that you were saying and being ostracized for, they're talking about and being okay with now, it seems that maybe you held a little more weight than people thought, if that makes sense.
I think what might have happened is I
just with the audience, I mean, you know what I mean?
That I can't tell. I don't get to listen very often.
This is my hypothesis. Again, am I allowed to have think and ask questions? Right?
Yes, you can. It's still legal. I listen to Dan and Drew in the morning. Outside of that, I don't really get to pay attention much. I do a show for, sometimes we don't get out of here till 2:00 Eastern Standard Time. So by the time we get done, I go have lunch. Generally speaking, I like to let my mind rest for a little bit, maybe take a walk, get outside in some fresh air, and roll on about my day. So I don't get to listen to the station very often. But the Miz guy, right? The Miz guy that does his show, again, I can't speak to the entertainment value, right? A lot of times you got to keep people entertained, but if you're looking for information and an honest conversation, he seems like a good guy to me. I mean, I like his style.
Yeah.
So I'm not, I don't speak out against the station. Anything that gives information and gives all different views of it, I have a tough time being upset with them. I have a lot of people that Jen's on here. She's like, "Oh, don't be giving them any." For me personally, any information where people are being honest about the information process, whether they've been good, bad, or indifferent, I still like the idea of conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree.
I still like it, and I do think that I was a hindrance to their business model. I do. A lot of people tell me, "Rob, you're crazy. I've never listened to the station since you left." I get that a lot. I'm like, "Well, yeah, but you listened to me. You were in for me." A lot of
Yeah, I
people.
mean, that's like everyone I hear talk. That's what I'm saying is everyone I talk to, it's probably hundreds of people now, right? If not maybe up to 1,000 people that have said, they
Well, I
they
have
have
a
all these things they say that I'm not going to repeat because I don't necessarily think that about them, but all these negative things they say about the station. And they're like, I was only on there for Rob. And, how do I find Rob? And that's what Mike tells me too at Moe's. He's like, man, people are coming in here and they can't find Rob.
Well, you know what's funny about that? It's interesting. It was very flattering, by the way. But I was looking at the messages that were coming into People's Lobby, Missouri last night, and I called you about it. And I said, I got to figure this out. I said because it looks like I'm getting a bunch of emails, and I started reading through. I'm like, well, maybe some of these are spam because they keep saying they're wanting to join People's Lobby, Missouri, and so forth. I got off the phone with you, and I'm sitting next to my wife, and I go, yeah, I think that a lot of this is. There's just hundreds of them, and then I started clicking in, and I'm looking at them like they're messages to me.
Yep.
And I said to my wife, I said, look at this. I said, look at these messages. Rob, I can't find you. I don't know where to find you. Where'd you go? You were on the radio and you just disappeared on me one day. And they don't know because the only thing they could associate with me was People's Lobby.
Yep.
So if they weren't listening on the day that I left, and then, kind of Rick and Tracy kind of just, from a
Push it
business
under the rug.
well, they don't want to talk about me. I mean, why would
Yeah.
you, right? So there's no conversation about Rob going on over there. So these people that were listening to me couldn't find how to get a hold of me. So they were trying to reach out. I read 3 of them yesterday that reached out to the People's Lobby website to find out where I was at. It went into my spam. I never even got to see them. There was no, they weren't all 100 messages to me, but there was
I
100.
saw people this morning saying,
100
thank you for
messages from there.
finding that because I've sent messages. I was wondering what was going on. I haven't gotten any communication back. That's what people were saying in the chat this morning when we were talking about it. So, yeah.
Well, I'm technologically retarded. I really am. I don't. It never even
No
dawned.
way.
It
No,
never dawned.
I'm just joking.
I swear to God, it never even dawned on me to look on the spam. Never even dawned on me to do it.
Yeah.
And then I look in there. I was just scrolling through all the different messages. I'm like, oh God.
I've learned just because basically what Amanda and I were just talking about is I know how AI works, right? And before, AI was really, really big and prevalent in our life, something that we didn't realize was already, taking place in our life is that our emails were being read through machine learning to start deciphering out what's important, what's not important. And then each business was starting to get a score saying, okay, hey, you get a score. And if you send an email, it can end up in someone's inbox. But if your score is not good enough, it's not going to end up in their inbox. And so now with AI, I mean, they can just control anything, wherever it's going to end up. You know what I mean? They can control if it's going to end up in spam.
I think
Maybe
that's
it'll
what
end
the
up in
world
your
is heading.
inbox, right?
Yeah, I think we're heading into a real interesting time in the world where people are going to have to figure things out. I think there's way more that goes on with the algorithms and emails and messaging and every kind of communication source that you can think of. I think it's being manipulated. I could be wrong. I'm
Now
not
that
saying
you have
no.
Apple TV, since you have it for a little while, watch the show Silo.
I saw that on there.
Yeah, watch that show. That's where I think they want to go.
You know what I'm into?
Hmm.
It's either called Black Bird or Black Box. My wife and I watched the first
I
2
saw
episodes.
that. I haven't watched it, but I saw it.
I'm so into that kind of thing. So the story goes, just and then we'll let everybody go, but just a little entertainment value for a second.
Yeah.
So my wife knows what I'm into, and she goes,
I'm sure people can relate because they watch the shows too,
Yeah, this is on Apple TV. How many people have Apple TV? I don't know. And she goes, I was scanning through here, and she goes, I think I found one that you'll like. And I go, we're going to watch a movie? And she goes, well, it's a series. I go, oh, that's all right. So, I get down, we get on the sofa, and she flops her feet up. My wife is very funny. So she cooks dinner, and then when we sit on the sofa, immediately the feet come up onto my lap. I mean, it's almost like it's gotten to be the point where I'm not even her husband anymore. I'm a foot rubber and a husband. But the foot rub is the most important thing. This is where she's gotten to, right? So her feet pop up onto my lap, and now I'm
I
thinking,
saw
okay,
a funny video. Sorry, just a sidetrack. I saw a funny video the other day. It was a wife young wife who was, greeting her husband who had just flown back from like a 2-week business trip or something. And she's like, oh, and then she's hugging him and she goes, can you crack my back? And it's like, out of everything that, the 2 weeks is like, can you crack my back, please?
When you lose your ability to crack your own back, which is a problem for me too,
Yeah.
it does bum me out because my wife
Yeah.
stands on my back to crack my back, and that's
Yeah.
how we roll. So anyway, where was I in my story?
You're talking about the foot rubbing. That's why that brought up to my mind. Sorry.
She plops her feet up and she starts flipping through, and I worry about the movies that we're going to pick because I don't want to get stuck in a 2-hour movie that's bored me to death, and she knows that. I don't have the attention span. Once I lose interest in it, I'm off to something else, and I want to spend time with her. So we're going to be invested in this movie together. Blah blah blah. So she starts it up, and it's about. So the first guy is he gets imprisoned for selling drugs. While he's in prison, these investigators come to him and they say, "Listen, you had a 10-year sentence." He's upset because he thought he made a plea deal for 5. They give him 10 years, and he's all upset about it. He said, and they say, "Listen, you have basically personality profiled him." And they said, what we'd like you to do is transfer to this like psychotic prison where they keep serial killers, because this one particular serial killer who's suspected of killing 14 women, he's only given the location of one body. They want him to go and befriend this guy in this psychiatric prison in Springfield, Missouri, to befriend him, talk to him, gain his trust, so that he'll tell him that these other women are buried.
Okay.
And so we're in 2 episodes of it, and I'm fascinated by these types of things. My wife thinks I'm insane. I've always been fascinated with serial killers because serial killers to me, this is where the demons come in that I don't understand. I cannot fathom a situation. It's just so foreign for me to understand how you can move around in life as a normal person, have a wife, have a family, go to work, your neighbors like you, you're out barbecuing with them in the backyard. You don't even recognize that there's something off. And then when you're not paying attention, they're out killing, strangling, and raping women and throwing them out into cornfields, which is what this guy was doing. And I'm so fascinated by that my wife saw that, plopped her feet up, knew that I was going to like the show, knew she'd get the good foot rub because there we go.
Yeah.
That was last night. And then we'll follow that up with a little bit more foot rubbing and TV tonight on Apple. I got 28 days left. My wife won't let me keep it. It's $13 a month. She said,
yes. No. Oh, we go through that all the time. We gotta cut this and cut this and cut that one out. Especially after we did Dave Ramsey, it was a big change. But yeah, the silo, I think you'll like that. It's like kind of a post-apocalyptic world, and there's they do flashbacks to like 130 years ago before the silos, and essentially there's all these different silos that you can see. The story is about one silo, and it's an entire civilization that lives in this underground silo because there was a nuclear type war. It's not safe to go outside. The air is contaminated. And so they have different floors, do different things, right? On one floor, it's like agricultural. So they grow things on the inside. One is supply. They have things that they can't grow. And so there's this warehouse of supply they have. There's, the lower groups. They're the ones who are the machinists. They're keeping the silo going. And so you just get jumped into, 130 years into this where it's kind of multi-generationals. And so this is what they're used to. Right. And it's like they've got a judicial department.
All they know.
And an IT department. It's all they know. But they're just, and it shows how the people are not, they don't accept the answers that are being given to them. Right. They know that they're being lied to. And so there's this undertone. Yeah, exactly. And so there's this undertone of like, hey, I don't believe them. They're not lying to us. And you get deep into it and you find out, oh, they are controlling and manipulating the people. And so very interesting. And you watch and you think, this could be us in 130 years.
I'm in.
Because the flashbacks are to normal. It's like, oh, they're following a congressman, right? And he's like, his sister's in the Air Force, and there's all these things that are happening. And so you're like, whoa, this is too real, right? This is exactly what we're seeing now with the AI and technology. And they use a big entrepreneur guy in the show too, who's the guy that I don't know yet, but I'm assuming how they're setting up. He's the one who brings the silos about, right? And you're like, man, this is just too real. It's too real of what it could be in the future.
You had me sold. Silo?
Yeah. Silo. Yeah. Very interesting.
What an interesting day. I really enjoyed that conversation with that lady. So we'll have her back on again. Her
Amanda didn't she emailed me. She was joking. She's like, my name's Amanda, not Sally.
Silicon Sally, but her real name is Amanda. We'll get her back on, and then we'll see you everybody tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Don't be late. Might be 9:05. Every day we start between 9 and 9:10, based on when I get information to Isaiah, and he can download it into the system. Sometimes I'm a little bit late because I'm like, okay, no, I want to tell the story this way. No, I want to have this guest at this, and it gets a little, I don't know, a little scattered. So by the time we get it all laid in, we're between 9 and 9:10. So if you show up at 9:11, Isaiah, are you late?
You are late. Don't be a
Late
minute
at
late.
9:11. Never be at 9:11.
It's
Be
kind of
right
like
at
Valvoline Express Care, okay? If you don't have the sticker, can't be friends. If you show up at 9:15, I don't.
Charlie
You might
did
as
that.
well not just show up at all, right?
Charlie did that one day, and I thought, Charlie, what are you doing? I thought we were friends. I don't understand what's happening.
Oh, my wife says, I think Silo reflects what's already going on.
Oh, so I'll be into that. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All right, Isabel, have a great day. Isaiah, have a great day. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on the Rob Carter Show. Be good.
See you guys.